Wednesday, the 9th day of May, 2018. I'll be here for the next 4 hours. Then Roger Stone, Owen Schroyer in the War Room. Zach from High Level Intelligence in the U.S. will be joining us with his take on the unprecedented Israeli strike yesterday just south of Damascus at one of their largest air bases, killing a bunch of Syrians, Iranians, and reportedly maybe even some Russians. Israel launched it within an hour of Trump withdrawing from the Iran deal, but very little coverage. I went on CNN last night, 5 hours after, 6 hours after, zero coverage, which is really bizarre, but I've got a take on why that's happening. We've got Beth Chapman, of course, who works with Dog the Bounty Hunter, to break down how bizarre it is as well that Google is coming in saying that they're going to ban bail bondsmen and bail bonds ads. Just like we now know Broward County's gone from lying to defending it, that the shooter there, Nicholas Cruz, was in a anti-racism program where criminals that had committed a bunch of crimes, were threatening to kill people, are not sent to jail or juvenile detention. They're just basically turned loose. And so that he was actually protected. That's incredible. So that ties into Europe letting Muslims rape children as young as 10 years old. Finland's Supreme Court just ruled on Tuesday, no, it was Monday, I saw it on Tuesday, that Muslims are allowed to rape children because it's their culture. Talk about hospitality. When I say that on air, it sounds insane. It doesn't sound real, but it's mainstream news. They're very proud of it. So that's coming up. Leo Zagami is going to be on for at least 45 minutes of the second hour to take your phone calls. And here's the deal. A lot of people have claimed, rappers and other folks, they've been on secret societies or in elite secret societies. Zagami, we never make a big deal about it when he's been on the show, but Zagami has been in the real Illuminati, at least a large branch of it in Rome. His family's aristocratic and part of the establishment. And I know people that also are, let's just say, on the periphery or groups connected to that have confirmed. And Zagami never makes a big deal about it, but I mean, we're going to interview a real former member of the Illuminati. Well, 3 U.S. hostages that have been held in North Korea for a long, long time are on their way back with the director of the CIA, now the Secretary of State, Mr. Pompeo. Another big victory for Trump, another signal that North Korea is going to denuclearize and begin the process of merging with the South. I first told you that on March 8th, a full month before it was ever in the news, that they had already agreed tacitly to Trump's demands under the massive maximum pressure sanctions, as Trump dubbed it. And I also said that the South also was in talks with them to merge in a 10-year plan with the North, starting with an economic trade deal and coal-powered stations. That's word for word what I told you. And then last night I noticed in the Associated Press that South Korea handed over a thumb drive with a reunification economic plan to start now and to go over the next 10 years ahead of full unification with a Part 2 10-year plan. But the first 10-year plan to begin coal-powered stations and factories. Word for word. And I asked the source from the White House, State Department connected, while I was given this in March while I was on vacation in Colorado for a week. And they said, because we want to boost your credibility. Because they're trying to destroy your credibility, son. That's what these giant disinfo campaigns are all about. So we're going to keep giving you pieces of intelligence ahead of others because CNN and MSNBC and Soros can't stand it, son. And there you go. Speaking of that demonization campaign, let's first play a clip of the embattled, corrupt governor of New York's brother, the same governor's right-hand man who's been caught reportedly savagely beating women and calling them brown slaves, as a champion of the Me Too movement, of course. And then he's got his little brother on CNN who's known to be a drunk driver, hit-and-run individual who hit and run right in front of the town square, but he's allowed to. He's a Como. Here's a guy saying, I'm a horrible, evil person with Roger Stone last night. But before we go to that clip, here he is telling you, like you're a dog, that you're not allowed to read WikiLeaks. Here it is.
Also interesting is, remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media. So everything you learn about this, you're learning from us. And in full disclosure, let's take a look at what is in there and what it means. Joining us now, CNN.
And then it wasn't full disclosure. It was a total whitewash with diversionary stuff. He didn't cover CNN being given the questions ahead of time. CNN giving the questions to Donna Brazile ahead of time. He didn't cover stuff like that. Or Hillary actually running CNN, the New York Times, MSNBC, with her staff daily telling them what headlines to have, how to cover things. Sounds exhausting, doesn't it? But Cuomo's back saying, well, Alex Jones is such a horrible person. He said those horrible things about the Sandy Hook parents. No, I never said anything about the Sandy Hook parents other than my listeners pointed out anomalies that many people, including myself, thought meant it could be staged. And we have that right as citizens under the First Amendment. Paul Watson got on me, Aaron Dykes got on me, and we've released the emails from the year after saying we think this is bull and we don't like it and we think these families look legitimate. And so I said, you know, I respect you guys, and I started softening my stance. But I'm allowed to question things when we have babies in incubators that never happened to get us into a war that kills millions of people. You got Hillary lying about being in combat in Serbia, being shot at on tarmacs, not true. Brian Williams lying about being shot down in helicopters. Lies about WMDs that killed hundreds of thousands more, including tens of thousands of our troops. And now Newsweek, CNN, last week admitting that the White Helmets have lost U.S. funding because they are ISIS Al-Qaeda connected and have been caught staging the fake chemical attack that almost took us to war 3 weeks ago. So see, I question that because the White Helmets have been caught doing it before. Doesn't matter how many Netflix TV shows they have. And again, we reported that in Broward County there was a police stand down, according to witnesses we had on and local news clips. Now it's confirmed. Broward Superintendent defends program which shielded school shooter over 4 years, Nicholas Cruz, from arrest as he vandalized, as he attacked, as he threatened to kill and murder people with firearms. The police were called 22 times. The FBI was called 3 times. Now, what does CNN and Como do when I have local news clips that they don't want seen, that national news doesn't cover, but are on 3 local TV stations, and we have 2 students on saying the exact same thing, that there were deputies standing down everywhere, not just 1, not just 2, not just 4, but more than 10. What are they going to do? They're going to say that I said no one died in Florida at Parkland. And they had the Washington Post saying that I attacked a woman with the same name as Emma Gonzalez, but with no link, no proof, total lie. They're never going to drop this. So I'm going to make films about it all. I'm going to go knock on doors. I'm going to visit everybody. I'm going to make this a huge issue because they want it to be my Waterloo, and it's not. And my top lawyer, one of the top First Amendment lawyers in the country, went to a D.C. conference over the weekend, and I'm trying to get him to write an article or come on the show about it. And he said, no, they're definitely trying to set a precedent, to set a statute to overturn the First Amendment. He didn't believe this before. Using you, claiming you're causing violence and threats on people. He said, I saw multiple law professors on the stage saying Alex Jones killed people at the pizzeria in D.C. It's now that I killed people and people died from Pizzagate that I didn't even create. And they're saying that I got people killed in connection to Sandy Hook. So they're basically saying I killed the kids at Sandy Hook. This is a way to defame me. So it is next level, ladies and gentlemen. And when they set the precedent, they were saying this on the stage, they're going to say they can preemptively ban entire groups of people from speech and overturn the First Amendment. So it's now official. And my lawyer, Mark Balin, didn't fully believe me when I was telling him this. He said, no, it's true. I was there. I saw it at a top conference. They are saying they're going to end the First Amendment and that you killed people at the pizza place. That is just insane. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I killed people. He walked over to these professors after they spoke. He said, nobody died there. And they did nothing to say. They know it's not true. It's cuckoo level disinfo. But let's go out to break with Roger Stone on Como, where he's demonizing. Here it is.
What do you say is the best reason to read Roger Stone's book?
Well, what's interesting to me is when I post the link to buy this book on Google, within hours, they call it spam. When I post an ad to buy it at Amazon or Barnes & Noble, they call it, they reject the ad. This kind of internet censorship is very, very dangerous. It's what we're experiencing at InfoWars. I do a show there.
They, by the way? Who is
the tech left, the large
tech left?
Yes, indeed. So I do a show, as you do, 5 days a week. It's a lot of work. I can't get my show loaded on YouTube, my InfoWars show, because it's controversial. I'm against censorship.
You
left,
know what
right,
the problem is with InfoWars. You know what Alex Jones has done in the interest of publicity.
And you're familiar with the First Amendment, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, on that basis, I don't think anybody should.
Just because you have the right to say something doesn't mean it's right to say it.
Millions and millions of people are
smearing the Newtown people. You can't be on board.
I disagree with some of the things he has said, but even he has backed off that. The point is censorship, and we're struggling to stay alive because we can be arbitrarily censored, and that is dangerous.
All right, Roger Stone, thank you for making the case. Your book is Stone's Rules: How to Win at Politics, Business, and Style. Roger Stone.
The book's available right now at InfoWarsStore.com. That helps us fund our operation. But CNN knows. CNN has quarterbacked trying to get YouTube to ban us using lies they put out about us. It's tortious interference. Bacon. So it's official. My lawyer went to a big Democrat lawyer convention, and they openly said they're going to end the First Amendment, and they're going to ban all conservatives from speech, and they're going to use yours truly as the test case of disinformation and lies to create the case law and the cases. And they are saying that I murdered people and I have killed people at the pizza place in D.C. That is the level on the stage, law professors saying I murdered people in D.C. or I caused murders in D.C. This is the magnitude of, I mean, they're making their move. My lawyer yesterday was verbally shaking his head over the phone. He said he just couldn't believe it. He'd never seen anything like it. Total lying hysteria. Speaker after speaker after speaker. And you call the ACLU, you call other big groups, and they go, we know they're attacking Jones. We know they're ending the First Amendment. We're not getting involved. They're making their move, folks. That's why they had this professor in Slate magazine Friday say, censorship isn't enough. Jones must be banned from the internet, and all school children must be taught he is evil. And then there were multiple news articles without me even looking out of Kansas City and out of Austin, Texas, written the same, with a local grandfather and a father going to the school and teaching the girls how evil I am last week, and the girls becoming sick. Each article said they became sick. They put the template out. They probably didn't even visit the schools. And then you're reading in the paper, the girls became frightened. They became sick. They were shown Alex Jones. This is like I'm living in a 1984 movie. We must go to all the schools and teach the children he is evil. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Cue Rod Serling, please. Now, that said, let me tell you all the news coming up today. Why are they mad? Because all over the foreign press, including the German news and even the British news, even though they're so controlled, it still came out that the rebels launched the last 3 chemical attacks. and then got caught doing the fourth one, and the kids that they showed that supposedly died are fully alive on international television, including Germany's top TV station, saying, we were told we'd be given dates and candy if they could spray water on us. And they put green makeup on them to make them look dead. And it's the exact kids on TV. They're flying 15 of them around Europe on a tour right now. And then Trump saw it last week and withdrew U.S. support of over $50 million a year to the white helmets. Now, of course, this broke 3 weeks ago with respected investigative journalists out of the UK. But now even CBS News is having to report it. And do you know in the internal Google documents that came out late last year that Mike Cernovich got us in November when he came and visited with his wife? Google said, no, those are real documents. And we made a mistake. We're not going to ban Alex Jones. And the documents were millions of dollars to hire third-party firms to go and manipulate their algorithm, because Google didn't want to touch its algorithm then. They've now broken it. It doesn't even work anymore. It's all screwed up. They broke the algorithm. But at least last winter, they weren't ready to do it. So they were hiring companies to downvote InfoWars, and Ron Paul. Now, there's the article. You can scroll down if you're a TV viewer or visiting Infowars.com and actually see the documents. And why did they say? They said they exposed that the chemical weapons attacks were staged by ISIS and the white helmets. Oh, and a year later, because that was last April, the article's from December. They launched it again, and it didn't work. All the fake videos that CNN showed are now admittedly fake. I mean, it's not as if you need to be a weapons inspector that actually goes there to know that. You can watch the videos, but the weapons inspectors did get there. And the rebels were shooting at the American inspectors because they didn't want them in there to prove it didn't even happen. Now, that's good news because the last 3 times they launched real chemical attacks. And they killed a bunch of innocent people. So at least this time they got a little more moral, I guess, in ISIS, or they didn't have any chemicals. And so they just said it happened. But if you're a radio listener, you're not seeing this. I'm showing CBS News admitting the rebels staged a chemical attack that didn't even happen and ran a bunch of neighborhood kids through the local hospital and then kicked the regular doctors out. The white helmets did at gunpoint and then had their guys dress up in white lab coats and then do some of the worst acting I've seen. I mean, a 10-year-old, kids in a 10-year-old play. 10-year-olds in a play, you do a better job than this. This is the height of bad acting. And now we know it's acting. So why do they hate us? Because every time we're one of the only outlets in the U.S. that will tell you the truth. And they know truth's infectious. Just like we told you the day after it happened, we had 2 different students on. We showed videos from 3 different newscasts of other students in Parkland saying there were deputies all over the place. They lined their cars up. They waited 10, 15 minutes outside till it was all over. David Hogg was at home. He didn't get there till after. He wasn't there till after, so he couldn't have shot the videos inside. I'm not even saying that. The students were saying this. And then Hogg later admitted it. No, I was at home and rode my bike. Well, how are you there going, he's outside shooting right now. I'm in there with the teacher. I don't know what went on there. I mean, people died. And I'm not saying Hogg's a crisis actor. I'm saying that they didn't want that out. And that's why they want us off the air. But here's the good news. Everybody knows how to watch this stuff now. InfoWars is just big. And these old, crotchety, brain-dead globalists who've got one foot in the grave, they think they can shut us up and then shut everybody else up. Good luck. You're the ones collapsing. You're the ones falling apart. Trump's talking about not giving you your press credentials because you're certainly not press. CNN. He won't shut up even after he goes to you. You take over his events, absolutely. Fake news is working overtime. Just reported that. Despite the tremendous success we're having with the economy and all the other things, 91% of the network news about me is negative, fake. Why do we work so hard if working with the media when it's corrupt? Take away credentials? Yeah, see, they want to take away our entire First Amendment. Trump's just talking about kicking them out of the White House. And that's not censorship. It's CNN calling for InfoWars to be shut down. They're an un-American criminal organization that's bankrolled by George Soros and other crown bosses. Just got an email back, so I was a little bit late getting into the seat here, from the Washington Post, where they put out an article very sneakily, very devilishly, very underhandedly saying that I said there's another Emma Gonzalez who's a crisis actor who isn't a crisis actor and that she's getting death threats. We never said it. None of our guests ever said it. It's a total fraud. And here's the smart mouth response we got back from the reporter at Paquette at washpost.com, or Bezos Disinformation Command Center. Hi, Kit. Ryan told me he gets his news from the blogosphere and people like Alex Jones. As the piece notes, he prefers to follow people who publish conspiracy theories, and that's where he learned about Emma. Hope that clears things up. Yeah, you just republished the same thing in this email that you put out in your so-called publication. And again, it's not this stuff's even hurting me. This is how they continue to put it out, and then you'll see these individuals on TV going, just stop, Alex. Look what you did to Emma. Stop saying she's a crisis actor. Stop saying no one died. My goodness, man. The Washington Post is begging you to quit. And that's the tactic they use, and that's why America hates these people so much, that they had to be propped up by the richest man in the world who made $12 billion 2 weeks ago in one day. Bezos, the big sweatshop owner that now owns, Whole Foods, as the quality plummets there on record. And you got Carlos Slim, the corrupt kingpin that made, some say $9 billion, some say $6 billion, but over $6 billion on the Obama phones. See, behind every little free goodly, behind everything fun, for all the little freebies, there's some type of screw job by these guys. All their money always comes from inside deals. This poor woman, after he learned about it on Alex Jones that she was a crisis actor, is now under attack and being threatened. Look what Jones has done. We heard from some guy. He got it from Jones. Show where I said it. That's how they fence the lie. When you steal something, you go to a pawn broker, a pawn shop, and they fence the theft. They put a layer of deceptions. They go, oh, I talked to a guy who says he heard it from you, and now we're going to say it. And I heard from a guy there's WMDs in Iraq. And I heard from a guy that the moon's made out of cheese. Okay, let me hit some of the big headlines. We got a jam-packed guest today. Leo Zagami, we advertised him as a best-selling author on the Vatican that predicted that this current head of the Jesuit order would become the next pope, and that you would have two popes at one time. And he just predicted everything because he has been a member of the real Illuminati. And, we never really advertised Zagami as that. But he really is somebody who has been, let's just say, at the first few levels of groups that maybe only a few thousand people are in. The real P2, the real outer circles of the Illuminati. And he's also been inside the Knights of Malta. He's been inside high-level Islamic orders. And I never really advertised him as, inside a real Illuminati operative. Coming up today, an exclusive discussion with an Illuminati operative or former Illuminati operative, Leo Zagami. But that's really who he is. I've been to Rome. I've met with him. He's let us into places nobody else can get into. He knows the Swiss Guard, all of it. And but the real proof is, I've known Zagami for 12 years, none of his work longer. The real proof of the pudding is his predictions, his accuracy, his everything. He almost won the Italian Senate race. They threw him in a mental institution for a week and put it in the news so that he didn't win by a few points. So he's quite a mover and shaker over in Italy, over in Rome. So this will be an interesting discussion with Leo. You know, he didn't think he was coming on about that today, just about the Vatican and take your phone calls. But I thought, why not have him get into why he knows all this? By the way, I said get him on at 15 after. Let's go ahead and get him on about 10 after. I got a few things I got to cover at the start of the next hour, but then I want to go right to him so he can break this down, because this is really inside. You want the inside baseball? This is coming up. This is the type of thing I should promote for like a week coming up. But then I just get so close to the info, I'm kind of like, okay, Leo Zagami. Or the other big guest we have on. But a little bit of pre-hype here, something I don't normally do because it definitely warrants it. Beth Chapman, the national president of the Bounty Hunter Association, is talking about Google saying no to bail bondsman ads and how that's part of this agenda to legalize crime around the country and the world. And will you guys pull from yesterday's stack, my whole stack on that? Oh, okay. And then also how they're legalizing Islamic crime and how they're how the Parkland shooter was also in a similar program and allowed to make death threats and vandalize and physically attack people because his last name was Cruz. Even though he wasn't even Hispanic, they went, oh, we're not going to put you in this, jail. We're just going to let you roam free because we're not racist. That's right, an anti-racism program. They stood down on purpose at every level. Physically that day, for years while he threatened to kill everybody, he was known as the school shooter. And our crime was exposing it, so they lied and said we said no one died, and it was fake to, again, lie to you. But guess what? Everybody knows the White Helmet staged the attacks now. That's CBS News. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows that Broward County stood down. Evidence is pointing towards on purpose to let it happen. Another blue city where all these things happen so they could blame gun owners. Yet again, how bombshell is that? Now, when we come back, Trump's getting 3 hostages back. Israel struck Syria yesterday at one of their major airports. Almost no coverage of that. That says something. We're going to have Zach popping in to cover that and more in the next segment. But first, ladies and gentlemen, if you believe in this broadcast and you want to stand against the rushing torrent of globalist disinformation and attempts to shut us down, if you want to see this operation get stronger in the face of the enemy, shop with the good guys at InfoWars Store, one word, InfoWarsStore.com. There's big fat links on InfoWars.com, on NewsWars.com, on EuropeWars.com, on PrisonPlanet.com. And I want you to try Super Blue, fluoride-free, concentrated, fortified with colloidal silver and iodine toothpaste. Almost everyone that orders it reorders it. It is our overall best-selling product. It's not a real profit center because it's a low-price item, but we have the mouthwash, the immune gargle in 3 different sizes, also fortified with colloidal silver and iodine. All of it together, 50% off and free shipping. Or you can buy them all individually, 50% off. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLive.com, or 888-253-3139. And then I want you to try the ultimate turmeric product, Body's, with a 95% curcumin level, 400+ milligrams of it alone, with 6 other known incredible anti-inflammatory antioxidants that help accelerate it. Turmeric is well known. Well, this is the strongest that we could go out and find from anywhere, and it's super high quality. Body's, whole body support. It's just been out one run and sold out quickly, but I'm doing it 50% off because I want you to try it. 4.9 stars on Power Reviews. Unprecedented. Only X2 has a review that high. I want you to try the ultimate turmeric product, Body's, 50% off at InfoWars Life, InfoWarsLife.com. We'll be back. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Everyone knows that I'm a big supporter of President Trump. And that I like what he's doing, bringing sovereignty back to the country. You know a man by his enemies, George Soros, Hillary, the globalist. They have been deindustrializing this country by design for decades. So I'm still a big Trump supporter. But when he struck the Syrian air base last year, I said, listen, that may satiate the warmongers, but we know that the white helmets and ISIS and al-Qaeda have been caught staging chemical attacks before. And then U.S. and UN inspectors went and said it was the rebels again. They have the motive. Well, this year in April, they were pulling out. The Russians were leaving. The U.S. was announcing they were leaving. Yesterday, the final pockets of ISIS in Syria were pushed out. That was announced in the morning. Trump gives his speech. Within an hour of it, Israel starts launching missiles at a large airbase south of Damascus, the capital of Syria. And what's even crazier is 6 hours later, I'm going to bed after I'd even covered it. So it was about 8 hours after it happened. And no coverage on CNN. Almost no coverage anywhere, but a little bit on Fox, a little bit on Infowars.com. Drudge Report had a link. What if Iran responds? Well, a missile got fired, we're now learning, from a country outside Saudi Arabia and almost hit the imperial palace. So Zach, who, again, is an expert on the Middle East, expert on Libya, soon may be revealing his identity to everybody. He's been on television and been in print before. He's a known quantity to us. He's got a lot of information for us about how dangerous this is. I shot a live video after Trump's speech yesterday at about 4, right as this was starting, not even knowing, saying this could trigger a large Israeli-Iran war. People are like, oh, you're being a warmonger. Well, now mainline analysts are saying that, but I think we pretty much have a war with missiles, ICBMs being fired out of, Yemen, clearly by Iranian-connected forces, into Riyadh. These tit-for-tats going back and forth. So is this Israeli response a tit-for-tat from missiles fired months ago, or is it part of the larger Saudi Arabian civil war? Zach, thanks for joining us.
Yes, Alex, it's great to be back on and be able to connect some dots here, provide some context to the situation that's going on, because what's going on is very critical. What's occurring as we speak is Iraq 2.0. The war with Iran is in full effect now, and it's just beginning. What we have to understand is it's no coincidence that Israel strikes this town in Kiswa, just south of Damascus. I mean, really within minutes after Trump signs the changes there, getting rid of the Iran deal. This is very dangerous, and I'm gonna put this into pretext. I'm gonna pretext with this. I support Donald Trump. I like Donald Trump, but he does not receive blind trust, because what's going on right now in Iran is on behalf of the Saudi Arabians and has to do with the military-industrial complex. 100%. Okay, the hypocrisy is so amazing in its entirety. So let's just give people some context here. So it's Saudi Arabia, Israel, and deep state elements of our U.S. government that have pulled off 9/11. Okay, but now ever since then, Iran is this culprit. It's unbelievable, and it's a huge, huge problem. And the idea that, oh, you're being sensational, this isn't a war. Ladies and gentlemen, they're striking missile sites in Syria that are Iran ran. 15 soldiers, Quds forces out of Iran being killed, 2 civilians there. You have the Houthis in Yemen shooting Scuds there at Riyadh, and even ballistic missiles. A lot of stuff was shut down. Firefights in the countries. It's going down. All while it's no big deal. People are acting like nothing's going on. This is everything. This is the perpetuation of war in the Middle East, the military-industrial complex.
By the way, when I talked to you last night, just a few hours into this, you said, look at the amnesia. Look how there's no coverage. And that's critical. And now a day later, there's almost no coverage of this. What does that signify?
It's crazy. People can't connect the two dots. All of a sudden, Saudi Arabia is our closest ally. How could that be? Iran bad, Saudi Arabia good. Folks, I got some news for you. Saudi Arabia is bad, bad, bad news. Okay, but we want to go over there, wave swords, build this empire. I get it. If we're going to work, they're going to reform. I get it. But when we're talking about destabilizing the Middle East and really carrying out the plan, we got a big problem here. So because I got a big problem right here with Donald Trump. What happened to Donald Trump on the stage telling Hillary Clinton that it's a good thing like a guy like you wouldn't be in office, and he cuts her off and says, yeah, because you'd be in jail. Well, here's the thing, bud. You are in office, and she's not in jail. And in fact, we're starting a new war. So what's going on here? For all the good you're doing, and you're doing good, this is not good. And I'm not going to have blind allegiance here, because this is about war. This is about global peace. And what's going on here is nothing more than doing the bidding of the Saudi Arabias, because they are the highest bidders at the table. And they are not our friends. They are the highest bidders. We are business partners, but we are not friends. It's so, the hypocrisy is amazing. And this is the big issue. They stress and stress and stress that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Is that right? All right, well, let me speak to the listeners right now. We're all Second Amendment supporters, right? We're Second Amendment supporters here. We understand the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. So we've been running this whole line of when it comes to the nukes, the whole nana boo-boo, we have nukes but you can't too game. How can that be? Let's look at track records. If I was a sovereign country, you better believe I'm trying to get nukes. And how are you going to have the moral high ground and tell me that I can't use them when you're the only entity?
Well, here's the other issue. If the globalists weren't globalists and doing this actually promote American values, it'd still be wrong, but it wouldn't be as bad. The globalists hate America and hate our freedom are the ones trying to destabilize the Middle East and kick out good actors or neutral actors to put bad ones in to work with Turkey to try to conquer Europe.
And the country's under, like we talked about, amnesia. It's a very frightening amnesia with the apocalypse of information and all the collage of chaos, everything that's going on. And you'll hear these people, and they'll come out, and this will be the justification. Well, the lawmakers in Iran are burning American flags and chanting "Death to America." Well, I got a news flash for you. I'll take you to 100 college campuses as we speak in this own country and show you kids burning flags and chanting "Death to America." Don't act like the deep state, the Democrats, Black Lives Matter, and all the other factions here aren't doing the same things. Don't justify the perpetuation of the military.
And Zach, let me explain that. Let me explain that psychological warfare equation and dialectic. The big mega foundations, Ford, Carnegie, Rockefeller, all fund hate America, hate the police, hate the military, hate free market when they're the ultra rich because they want a domesticated population. That's all declassified. They have America do their dirty work, then they own publications worldwide that then demonize America and blame it, telling people that Americans all back this, so when they bring America down to China, down the road, the world accepts it as a good thing. So that's how sophisticated this is.
Absolutely. The idea that this is about, peace and cleaning things up, this is about money and oil, okay? Unfortunately, the greatest export in this country is war and entertainment. And sadly, they have merged, and the public has bought it. They have bought it. What is this, perpetual war? We're just going to build an empire? I'm not here to stick up for Iran. I'm America first, truly through and through. That's just where it is. But the idea, if we're going to look at track record and see who's in the empire building business, it's very clear here. So we have to stand up, and we could back Trump on certain fronts here. But what's going on here is this weird military-industrial complex, empire building in conjunction with Saudi Arabia to take over the Middle East as we take over the rest of the world, and eventually.
Sure. But just what Wesley Clark broke down 10 years ago. But let's give him near term, short term, near future, how this can kick off into a wider war very quickly if the Iranians or the Syrians, as you said in our text messages, even flinch.
Okay. So we see how crazy what went on in Syria is. Obvious false flag, completely fabricated, terrible acting, it brings on a strike there. So with the speech in the Iran deal being signed, he didn't say that we're going to strike Iran. In certain terms, he kind of did, basically warning them. But what he did do was give the go-ahead to Israel and other actors there in the region to pull off false flags, to do whatever they have to do. And, of course, with ironclad support, we'll have Israel's back. And, unfortunately, certain other factions in that country's back there. So what was done in that deal was given Israel the okay because this is Bibi's last stand. They've been trying to pull this off forever. And I have a real problem with it because it's Saudi Arabia, Israel, and deep state factions of our government that pulled off 9/11. Make no mistake. Okay? Not our own government, but deep state factions in those two other countries without question. Everyone forgot about the boogeyman bin Laden. That's not even the zeitgeist anymore. People don't even use that name anymore. But where was that military-industrial complex creature created and funded? Oh, yeah, Saudi Arabia. Like, give me a break here. We got big problems here. And it's all, I understand the enthusiasm. I understand the momentum.
Sure, well, Zach, stay there. We're coming back in 2 minutes to put bookends on this and then getting the latest on Mueller and what your take is on that, your intel is on that. And then Leo Zagami is going to join us inside the Vatican, inside a very deep branch of the Masonic Illuminati for real. That's coming up. Please don't forget, they're trying to censor us. They're trying to block us. On the local AM you're listening to or FM, please support them. Please spread the word about the local station. Same thing for local cable, local TV. Please spread the word. Buy an ad in the newspaper. Put up a billboard. This is a war. We need your help, so thank you all for your help. And please shop with the good guys. 50% off our entire family of Super Blue, fluoride-free, colloidal silver, iodine, toothpaste, and our Ultimate Bodies turmeric formula, 50% off. I decided to do that, even though supplies are running low. I want to get those of you off the fence that haven't tried it, and I think you're going to get hooked. We'll be back with the second hour. Stay with us. All right, Zach is a highly connected intel individual, really smart. Like to have him on. Has a lot of courage. Soon he'll be hopefully coming on the show and revealing his identity. He's got to think about getting out of the military entirely if he's going to do that. He's got a lot of stuff going on. But if you've got Trump starting to diverge from what he said he would do, unless you look at it like this. The deal 6 years ago was made by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dempsey, to block Obama turning the entire Middle East over to al-Qaeda and ISIS. And our own military started working with the Russians to block the full takeover because most of the rebels, 90+%, were ISIS, al-Nusra / al-Qaeda, rebranded al-Qaeda. And the deal was that Iran would then pull out, and then Assad would have elections once that was over. And we first learned about this from Colonel Schaefer and others and Tosh Plumlee. And then years later, it came out that that unofficial deal was made. So Trump could argue Iran's not pulling out. That's what Israel said this week is, you pull out or we're going to start attacking you. So I'm not defending what Trump did, but, I mean, it looks like that's the deal here. And some could say, Israel's saying, through unofficial sources, that Iran was readying offensive missiles and pointing them at Israel. My issue here is, shouldn't we just have sanctions on Iran? Shouldn't we go that direction? This immediate escalation is beyond saber-rattling. And then how does Korea then play into that equation? How much of this is ahead of the Korean deal with Trump making statements like, Trump, United States no longer makes empty threats? And we'll put that up on screen, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, let's just get one thing clear. Not offensive missile movements. That would be complete defensive missile movements. Iran's not perpetuating anything. I mean, listen, I'm not pro-Iran, but the idea that they're launching attacks or like, yeah, they're getting ready for Gaddafi 2.0. They're getting ready for Iraq 2.0. If you were them, you'd be doing the same thing there. But, you know, and here's the thing. They all say trust the plan. Yeah, let's trust the plan. The plan was lock her up, not keep it up when it comes to the military-industrial complex. This is a problem. This is a real problem here because he's doing a lot of good. And if you want to go to the Korean Peninsula, we spoke about it 6 months ago. Nobody uttered these words, strategic patience, until yourself and I were on air speaking.
We first laid out what the new policy was, and I confirmed that with Pachenik and a bunch of others. In fact, we should go back on all the shows you were on and show how you were dead on months before, and so was I, just so folks know why we're under such attack.
100%. So I got a real problem with, you know, perpetuating military-industrial complex building. Meanwhile, Hussein, Huma, and Hillary are chilling, fist-bumping with Richard Branson. Lock her up, not keep it up. That was the plan. So they want to talk about trust the plan, this and that. This is ridiculous. Saudi Arabia had everything to do with Vegas, had everything to do with 9/11, and all of a sudden, because they're a high-profile client, they're the highest bidder, we're going to just, you know, lay in bed with them? I got a big problem with that, because that's not why I elected you. That's not why we elected you. And make no mistake, you work for us. Okay?
Well, Trump said he does what he says he's going to do. And so far as presidents go, I haven't seen any president in modern history that has followed through on what they said as much as Trump. But on foreign policy, he's breaking. And we know, because they kill you if you don't. But if he starts breaking on this, what else will he break on? We'll see if Iran comes to the table. We'll see if carrying a big stick and being very, very clear makes them start to back down. I don't think that's enough for Saudi Arabia. Like you've said, they're going to want a wider war. They want to get their foot on the neck of Iran, and that's not going to happen.
Well, yeah, you know, that's like saying coming to the table. Coming to the table for what? Are we not going to admit that 9/11 was an inside job, which has been your life's work? Are we not going to admit that the military-industrial complex is ran?
Well, let's go further. Let's go further. I mean, let's go further. It's an inside job of globalism against nation states, and they're not going to let Iran have a secular government and give the young people what they want. If they were really going to do that, so I could go travel there, and they've got great culture and science and another big glistening country, I'd be all for overthrowing them. They're going to put something worse in. They're going to break it up in 5 parts and have civil wars. We all know that. Zach, thanks for popping in with us. Pop in for a full hour on Sunday if you can. I know you've got some time then. We'll be back with Leo Zagami, a real former member of the Illuminati, P2 Masonic Lodge, inside the Vatican. That's why he is the guy that years before anybody else laid out the entire blueprint. Next year's News Today, InfoWars. All right, we're already halfway into this segment, so I'm going to go to our guest starting at the next segment. Best-selling author, been in a major branch of the real Illuminati, P2 Masonic Lodge, all of that. Leo Zagami chronicled everything 4, 5, 6 years before it happened, just like he said it would happen. And with the Black Pope, that it would be Francis, that you'd end up having two popes, that he would openly basically try to open the borders up to Islam, that he would attack Christianity. They've now taken over the Knights of Malta, which is the big rival of the Jesuits. It's all coming up today. And I first want him to get into how he got into all this, what he experienced, and then what he learned when he was trying to go into these different groups and try to actually do good. So that is coming up with Leo Zagami. I've been listening to him for 13, 14 years, been having him on for close to 10, been with him and worked on projects in Rome. I just got amazing contacts there. Some of the stuff he told me and showed me later came true as well while I was there, and it was off record. Maybe he'll talk about some of that, 3-4 years later here with us today. And then in the last few segments for Leo Zagami, I intend to open the phones up for quick questions, just a particular question about the Vatican, about different branches of the Illuminati, because you got all the fake Illuminati, and you've got all the rock stars, people saying that, they're in it, or, what is the Illuminati for real? What does it come out of with Adam Weishaupt, the Ingolstadt University Jesuit priest, all of that? We're going to be discussing it with Leo Zagami coming up in the next segment. Powerful information, so please stay with us. Then after he leaves us, there is a major move worldwide to criminalize everything, get you into the criminal system, and then when they spit you out, have the Democrats and similar labor parties, liberal parties all over the world legalize or quasi-legalize your felony background, but you can only work when you work through guilds or you work through unions they control. So I'm going to break down the move towards the criminal union, the unionization of criminals through the deep state, which is a final Illuminati plan, even if we go back to the Jacobins and the French Revolution. And we've got the president of the National Bounty Hunter Association, one of the stars of Dog the Bounty Hunter shows, joining us. And we're going to walk through Google saying they won't take advertisements from bail bondsmen, saying because it's used against minorities, just like Nicholas Cruz, the shooter from Parkland, for 4.5 years, since early 2013, he could commit vandalism, crimes, physically attack people, threaten to murder everyone on a routine basis, until the FBI was called 3 times, the police 22 times. Then his foster parents, both in a year period, mysteriously die. He's on drugs in government care, and then he's released to go kill, and the sheriff's department, including the head resource officer, stands down, and then 10 other plus officers stand down, just as our witnesses we had on the day after reported. Again, let the Muslims rape whoever they want. I've got a stack of news on that. All over Europe, Finland, high court legalizing sex with 10-year-old children, rape. See, once you're a protected class in the global order, if you're a criminal, you can carry it out as long as you pay your dues to them and are part of their system. So they're going into a final phase of lawlessness, which has always been their plan, like Hillary saying black people are animals and need to be brought to heel and need to all be put in prison for 3 times longer for the same amount of cocaine as a white person. That's so they can put them in there, have them radicalized in the prisons under the globalist-controlled Islamic movement, put chips on their shoulders, take them out, not let them be productive members of the society until the next phase kicks in. Be a strong man for the globalist under strong cities, under the UN, under the Democratic Party, and then you will have your crimes forgiven. You will be given amnesty. But like a gladiator, you've got to fight in the arena and win to get it. So they're forming the Legion of Doom. So when I finally break that down later, we should take a few minutes from this breakdown and put it on that, because I think I just laid it out there pretty good. And I've figured out their operations from studying history, and you don't get that anywhere else. That's why they particularly want to shut us down. Now, I want to break here. We're listener-supported. And you stand with your will and your support and your strength against the globalists. And we make it easy to do. You talk about frustrating Soros, Hillary, the New World Order, the fact that they took all our sponsors, the fact that Google came after us, the fact that they banned us advertising online, most platforms. Got a big story on that coming out in the next few days. You still come to InfoWarsStore.com or high-quality shopping cart online and get game-changing supplements the top air filters, the top water filters at the lowest prices, non-GMO heirloom seeds, emergency shortwave radios, firearms accessories, watches, optics, survival gears, high-quality storable foods. It's all there. And right now this week are 2 big super sales. Even though both these items are close to selling out the next 2 weeks, I know new people buy it and then get hooked on it, on something good. So I'm doing it 50% off all the Super Blue, fluoride-free toothpaste, mouthwash, Immune Gargle in 3 different sizes. All 50% off individually or together, and get free shipping when you order the bundle. And Body's Ultimate Turmeric Formula with 95% curcumin levels, over 400 milligrams per caplet, powdered capsules, big horse pill, along with a bunch of other great ingredients. Talk about immune system, talk about stamina, talk about energy, talk about health. It is next level. 50% off. Body's. But this is only running for a week. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. Thank you all for your support. If you haven't tried these products, you really should. We'll be back. All right, Leo Zagami is our guest. And he's been just an incredible, accurate predictor years ahead of time of exactly what was going to happen in the Vatican. He's written a whole bunch of best-selling books. You can find it at leozagami.com. And he's, exposed the Vatican Illuminati angle. And I think it's fair to say that he's been in one of the major subgroups or actual internal group subgroups of the classical Adam Weishaupt Illuminati that tells people you're getting into the empowerment of humanity, true liberalism, but then you find out what it really is. So, Leo, we usually get you on over the years and never talk about your background, but it's very interesting, and I've been to Rome and spent days with you and know the other people that know you, and you've helped me get into some of the private groups and some of the little castles and things that are there in Rome, so you've definitely got entrance into all of those. Tell folks about yourself some so they can understand how you've been able to predict there'd be 2 popes, that it'd be this particular Jesuit pope, that they would then attack the church and try to bring it down and call for open borders with Islam, because clearly you've proven yourself the last 15 years, so you've been under such attack. So let's talk some about Leo Zagami, really Illuminati insider by defining yourself, what you would call the so-called globalist Illuminati, versus the counterfeit of just people organically wanting real illumination. Give us your insider breakdown, please.
Well, the 2 things are interconnected. In reality, Illuminati should stand for illumination. The problem is that once you have this illumination, it's very easy then to prevaricate on others and enslave others. So the problem is that you are tempted by those black forces and that black magic that basically enslaves other people and gives you power in the material realm. The real Illuminati instead are in the spiritual realm. I was lucky enough to be born in a family that for more than 1,000 years has been involved in such things because of bloodlines, both from my father's side and my mother's side, in Sicily and in the UK, both in Scotland and in England, where the aristocracy, as you know, still exists, and where we have a very different perspective from, of course, the classical approach you can have maybe in the US, where it's a very young country. But even in the US, as you know, certain bloodlines are cultivated in your universities, and the elite, of course, is part of certain secret societies, like the Skull and Bones, for example, that then bring up the elite members of the CIA, of the various military organizations, and so on, and also political. So there is an influence still from this aristocracy from Europe, even in your politics, as you know, and then we have, of course, my very close relative, the Queen of England, which is still in control of a very powerful country, as well as the Commonwealth. And so all this then is controlled by the Vatican. Yes, that's the big problem, which basically created for me at one point friction with certain organizations when I saw that the Vatican was not only indulging in Satanism, but promoting it and working within the New Age with these Jesuits actively. That's why the Jesuits are behind things like, for example, the World Council of Churches that is going to now organize this gathering in Geneva on the 21st of June with Pope Francis, which in the Illuminati calendar is a very important event, Alex, because Even myself, in my years in the Illuminati, in this organization, I was always dealing with ecumenical work, with the World Council of Churches and the different branches of the various...
And what you're saying is the heart of the Illuminati is the ecumenical movement to basically mix all religions together to bring down Christianity, which this new Pope is pushing a world religion. Specifically, describe the level of the Illuminati that you got into, the real Illuminati, and what that was like and what you discovered, without getting into, I know you can't get into the secrets, but anything criminal you'd be forced to talk about.
Of course, I mean, the secret might be the handshake or the password or the initiation and its contents, certain words. But in reality, the network that I've been part of had important members like Licio Gelli, for example, the Monte Carlo Lodge with Ezio Giunchiglia, the Comandante Giorgio Ugo Balestieri used to be in charge of the Rotary Club in New York, and many other powerful figures connected to the Vatican Knights of Malta and the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre, because these are also part of the Illuminati. And then there is, of course, Giuliano Di Bernardo, Academy of the Illuminati. Of course, these organizations are not recruiting on the internet, Alex. What you see recruiting on the internet often is a scam. And I want to warn really a lot of our viewers that the scams are increasing, unfortunately. And a lot of people send me mails every day saying, I've joined the Illuminati, I gave money to a Nigerian, and then he stole my money. I want to make you understand that there is no recruiting in the Illuminati. In the Illuminati, you are chosen and then brought. You can't ask to become an Illuminati. It's them who ask you to become one. And of course, they feel a great privilege because at that point, they know that they are in an elite club. When I was in the Monte Carlo Lodge, I was surrounded by people who were all weapon dealers, people who owned major companies, and they had a lot of money, millions and millions. And of course, there was...
And it's just like the Italian mafia. That's why there's P2, there's Masonic elements, there's La Cosa Nostra, but then it all ties together. They have yearly meetings in London with the Queen, who they see as the head of the whole thing. Still, even the Japanese come and give fealty to that. But just to explain how this global system works, you've got famously people who'd send out, newsletters to people and claim, I mean, even the guy that was into, quote, natural cures and all that, who got in so much trouble, he would send out letters and say he was part of the Illuminati, pay him money, you could be part of it. Or there's rappers, or there's guys always telling girls, hey, have sex with me, I'll put you in the Illuminati. Totally made up. If you don't have an aristocratic background or you don't have the bloodlines, you'll never get in the actual inner Illuminati. You can actually become a servant of it if you've been in the military or a lawyer or proven you're loyal. But it's all a hierarchical system, a shadow, aristocratic, global eugenics program.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, you see even people arrive, I remember in Monte Carlo arriving with millions and millions, maybe Nouveau-riche people who had recently made money, and they will, of course, kneel down to aristocrats who were maybe bankrupt and just wanted their money to then give them a knighthood and then basically welcome them in this club, which is very exclusive. And now, for example, in Monte Carlo, they have a control system which basically controls this Priory of Zion, which is not the Priory of Zion of Dan Brown. It's basically an organization born in the beginning of the 50s out of a political right-wing ideology, anti-communist, that was involved with certain Knights Templars and Masonic groups. And this Priory of Zion with Plantar Sinclair is now in Monte Carlo controlling large branches of the Illuminati with a Supreme Council of the Illuminati, which is formed of 4 members, a quadriumvirate. And they make the initiations in the church, the Anglican church in Monte Carlo. Imagine that.
All right, Leo Zagami, I tell you, spot on information. We'll now jump forward from this and why you decided to go public. We'll lay out the latest moves in the Vatican, which are very frightening, really incredibly disastrous things happening as this evil devil pope, false prophet, takes full control of the church. Stay with us. The toll-free number to join us to ask a question of Leo Zagami on the Illuminati, the total coming out of evil happening at the Vatican, you name it, is 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539. No matter how much it makes most Catholics upset, no matter how much it hurts them, this Pope is going for broke. And if you want to understand the Illuminati religion, they believe they're going to become gods, but they have to transcend humanity and create a cataclysm and carry out Armageddon themselves against humanity to then merge with machines and transcend this social Darwinistic battle of the gods, or Guter Damarong, Ragnarok. And so you see Pathos and the Associated Press and everybody making fun of me. Alex Jones invents a new boogeyman for Trump to fight, AI. Well, 3 days after I said that, Trump announced that he's having a big meeting coming up about the dangers of AI, displacing humans, robots, how they've built an anti-human future. Well, I mean, I knew the president was concerned about this because the decision had been made to build this new anti-human future, this depopulation. So they make the jokes about all these serious things. We'll tie that into it as well. Your calls are coming up in the next segment. 877-789-2539. First-time callers, by the way. And I'm asking just a quick, clear question so I get a lot of people in. We'll have 2 little segments after that. So, again, that's the number, 877-789-ALEX. Now, just condensing this, the 33,000-foot view now, looking at this from your inside perspective, where is it going? Correct me if you think I'm wrong about my statements. What's happening with the takeover of the entire church apparatus by the Jesuits? And what do you expect to happen next? Because you've made so many absolutely on-target predictions.
Well, you're absolutely right regarding artificial intelligence. In fact, I was pleasantly surprised about Donald J. Trump's stand after on Sunday I made my first public speech in the English language, partly based on this dangerous subject, which is the AI in the hands of unethical people and unmoral people. So the first thing to do is to moralize and create a council that is really in control of this artificial intelligence. Otherwise, we as humans will lose, also because the Illuminati want to empower these machines because, as you said, then they will upload their own soul into them because they are demonic, they are based on matter. And so that's where they're going towards the complete control of matter. But in the process, of course, they are losing the spirit and, of course, their own connection with God because they are completely satanic. And Pope Francis in Geneva is going to outline his own program for the one-world religion. And this is no joke. I mean, this is the final stage of something that already John Paul II started when he went to Geneva also and said that the ecumenism path we are following is irreversible and we are going towards something, of course, that is going to unite us all. And what does this mean? It means that they are destroying Christianity because they want to embrace every other religion. In the meantime, they are, of course, using Islam as their Trojan horse to destroy the West and to destroy the last remains of Christianity. I was, as I said, in England and in London last weekend, and there were 3 stabbings, one murder. Actually, one kid was murdered, a 17-year-old child killed. Another one, 13 and 15-year-old, were brutally stabbed. And this is happening in London, a city where I lived many years in peace, that now is starting to employ private policemen. And that is the thing, Alex, that is going to distinguish the future citizens of mankind, because the Illuminati have the money and the resources to employ these mercenaries and these private police. We don't. The poor people will be on one side being stabbed, being killed, and so on, especially here in Europe, where we don't have any weapons, where they have taken any possibility of defense from us. And instead, they have the private police firms. And in London, in 3 of the most important neighborhood of the Chelsea area, where all the rich and famous live, of course, there is private police. They're well armed. And these are the same people who criticize Donald J. Trump. The moment I stepped off the plane, I could only see the images of Trump criticized by the British TV on his stand on weapons, criticizing London and what is happening in London. They didn't talk about their own problem, which is, of course, then what Trump said was confirmed during the weekend while I was there. So I think that we need to outline the hypocrisy of these people that live surrounded by big high fences, electric fences, and of course with their mercenaries defending them. And the Pope is the same kind of subject. He criticized the weapons, but then he has the highest, he criticized wars, then he has the highest wars, and he has the most lethal weapons. I mean, this is complete hypocrisy, and of course they are going towards implementing this hypocrisy because they feel that people are brainwashed enough to accept all this. Thanks to InfoWars, thanks to the alternative media, Drudge Report, and so on, we have a possibility, and this possibility has to empower ourselves with the resistance. When I see that the head of the World Council of Religions is criticizing the religious right, and he is basically politicizing religion, this demonstrates that they want to push the liberal ideology, they want to embrace as more immigrants as they can in Europe. But it's obvious that the situation is becoming more and more dangerous every day. In Italy, in the last week, a group of Nigerians attacked an Italian in the street. Then we had a group of gypsies entering a bar and then beating up even an handicapped person in a bar in Rome. We have a situation which is completely out of control. There is...
and what is the end game? Because the globalists on record kept the third world poor, neutralized them being industrialized. Now they're openly flooding where the tourism's almost dead everywhere. It's all just hellish. I was over in Rome 3 years ago, and it was just like, whoa, it totally changed. People crapping all over the street. Every tree had like 30 people under it. Just bizarre, just hordes spilling over. Towns collapsing, just insanity.
Their process was outlined by the ideology of this Count Kalergi that 100 years ago basically planned. He was one of the people who gave birth to this pan-European movement, to the basis of the EU, and then his plan is to mix all the races. He himself was half Japanese. He had a bit of problems in the society back then, very elitarian.
And again, slowly tell folks about that European royal and the plan, it's even on Wikipedia, to forcibly merge Europe with the rest of the planet to build this utopia, which Europe has now adopted. And, of course, he was one of the founders of the Olympics as well. Hitler believed in this plan. People heard Hitler was going to exterminate everybody. No, just certain groups. Tell folks about that plan again.
Their plan is to destroy the ethnicities.
Sure, but the name of the plan so people can Google it.
The plan is called Kalergi Plan. It's Kalergi, Kalergi. And it's named after Count Kalergi, who is also a guy after who we have an award which is given every year. And of course, they have given this award to people like Pope Francis and Angela Merkel, amongst others. And this group of people, these Freemasons who have created this setup for disaster, are of course needing these people for work, for their slavery that they have already planned, because the moment in which they will, with the artificial intelligence, control everything, they still need some slaves to do the ordinary work, but they definitely don't need any problem. So the destruction of sovereignty and then the destruction of ethnicity is fundamental.
That's right. We'll be right back. Amazing. Leo Zagami. We are back live, broadcasting worldwide. I am your host, Alex Jones. Infowars.com, newswars.com are the main sites. LeoZagami.com is his amazing site. Here's an article he wrote for InfoWars 3 years ago. Report, EU intentionally collapsing European countries with illegals. The Kalergi plan started in the 70s but dreamed up in the 20s. And you can read all about it at Infowars.com. Absolutely vital to know that. Now, I see some callers that disagree. We'll go to them first. Frank in California, Eric in Canada, William in Florida, Marshall, a bunch of others. We're getting your calls up on the board. And not all of these disagree, but I see a few that disagree. Frank asked, how do we know Leo is not still a Mason and giving us disinfo? Well, let's stop right there. It's the weirdest thing. I'm like on Discovery Channel and History Channel with shows about the Masons. I talk about how a lot of the founders were Masons, and I had grandfathers and great-grandfathers. Great-grandfathers, one of them was like a 33rd degree Mason. Texas was founded by Masons. They were good people. George Washington was a Mason, but he wrote about the Illuminati and Weishaupt, and his letters are at the Library of Congress. You can look them up online. Read them in HD, written by him. And he sounds like Leo Zagami. He sounds like me. So there's these movements of enlightenment, if you know what all this goes back to, and it goes back to the old universities. They were just secret societies. And then you have this evil force trying to take them over. There's always been good and bad. So this is more of an aristocratic thing we're discussing. What matters is Zagami's been accurately predicting these things. He admits he was brought up and came into all this. And so the way people always change the subject online, we don't do this, is infighting. Who cares if he was a really bad guy? And I've met him and I think he's a good guy. And he's matured a lot, so have I. Nobody's perfect. But you judge a tree by its fruits. But it's like, what are you going to do with the info? Did Zagami say that this particular guy 5 years before, the head of the Jesuits, would be the next pope? There'd be 2 popes. It happened. How did he know? He's an insider. And he's gone through a lot, just like I have, to tell you the truth. I've just reverse engineered it. But I don't want to answer this guy's question for you. Let's just go to Frank. Frank, you're on the air with Leo Zagami. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex, Leo, how you guys doing today?
I'm good, Frank. Go ahead with your question or comment.
Yeah, basically you already spilled it all out, Alex. Just a question, you know, how do we know he's basically still on the side of the good guys and not the, you know, not the bad guys? All
right, so hold for his response. Leo, go ahead.
Well, answer, I am still a Freemason, but Freemasonry is not a unitarian force. I'm on the Christian side of Freemasonry. I have my own order. I'm very open about it. I write books about it. I publish dozens of these books all over the world. So I don't think that I'm being secretive about my Masonic membership, but also my war within it. And the controversies that have brought me out of certain lodges against certain people, and even receive an accusation of espionage and being arrested in Oslo, Norway, because of all this war that I'm conducting when I came out in the open with certain names. So I've been always very transparent, and you can find all this information in my books. So I invite people to just go and read them and see that I always been open about what I'm doing.
So to answer his question, the Masonic order is just an ancient school predating Solomon. Solomon was the wisest man in the world. His father was King David, the man whose own heart. All this secretive stuff, though, just breeds, globalism, New World Order. We're here exposing it. That's the whole point. And so he's going to do more good inside of it than outside of it. And again, the average Mason is what they call a porch Mason. They're not aware that the whole orders, most of the orders have been taken over. Correct, Leo?
Absolutely. Porch Mason or window Mason, somebody that stands at the window of an institution that they barely know, or they participate in a social way. There is a lot of good Masons that do a lot of good for people all over the United States. So we need to really recover our relation with the good side of Freemasonry that unfortunately, like all the other institutions, Alex, have been...
Exactly. It's the Illuminati that tells you the Masons are all bad, so good people desert it, and then the evil can take it over.
Yeah, the evil has taken over, especially in certain states like Colorado. Freemasonry is in the hands of liberals that let Muslims take over the lodges, teach all kinds of...
Absolutely, and that's what they did to get Christians out of it. They exposed some of the arms of it that are Luciferian, because before it was colleges. You had to get in the secret society to be in the college. They didn't just give you mathematics to anybody, so you had to be sworn into the order. Back when colleges were partly religious. So, of course, they've all got those ancient myths, Mithra, all of it, Saturn, Saturnalia, all of that. But the thing is, Christians, by the Middle Ages, were running it. And then now you've deserted it, as Washington said, and the whole thing's fallen apart. And now it is the total darkness, the anti-Illuminati. Frank, anything else?
No, I've been listening to both of you guys since about, you, Alex, since about 2003. I don't think Leo got on until a little bit after that, but appreciate the answer. And I guess one more question is, so, like you said, doing things in darkness versus doing things in light, secret society versus open society, Leo, any comment onto that? And Alex.
Well, I mean, we're talking about. I mean, I was told by a high-level Mason when I was a kid on a hunting trip, like one of the head guys in Dallas. He said, "Don't join it. It's been taken over. It's no longer what it was." So, I mean, and by then the takeover had pretty much been complete. I know about the New World Order and the Illuminati from Masons, and so that's and that's what Zagami's telling you, correct, Zagami?
Yeah, and I think that, as I said, in my books, I've been very open about how these things happened, about the fact that we are living in an age where I myself don't believe in secrecy anymore. I think this secrecy might mislead also the idea of Freemasonry, of certain groups, also Illuminati sects, that need to be open about their endeavors, because then we can understand if they're really on the good side or the bad side.
That's right. All right, Frank, thank you. Real quick, Eric. Let's go to Eric in Canada. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, how are you?
Good, sir. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, well, based on what Jordan Maxwell said, he said in 1871, the United States was no longer united. It was divided because of the war. In Delaware, they made it a corporation, and that we don't get to elect, they select for us. So I want to know why if he thinks that left-hand path Freemasons have selected Trump and put him in power.
Well, I mean, I personally think that Trump has the Jacobin, satanic, Luciferian, anti-progressive. They call themselves the progressive because they're anti-progressive. Trump is a Renaissance force. They are an anti-Renaissance force, a satanic force in the main. But I think Trump is, obviously a worldly person. I think he's influenced by both. But his great sin is he wants prosperity. He's not anti-human. What's your view on that, Leo Zagami?
Well, from the inside, I can tell you that only the conservative and Christian side of Freemasonry and the Illuminati supports Donald J. Trump. It is a growing side, though, because a lot of Masons are finally coming out. But at the same time, here in Italy, there has been Freemasons are coming out in support of Trump, even if he's a foreign president, got punished within their lodges. This happened in the Grand Lodge of Italy, in the two lodges they have in London, which operate abroad, where some
absolutely. Look, the power structure is coming after me big time for supporting Trump, and you see things turning around with him because he really is trying to be good. I think that's self-evident. Thank you, Eric. Let's jam in one more before we go to break here. We'll do one more segment with Leo Zagami. Got to have him back soon. Let's talk to William in Florida. You're on the air with Leo. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Alex. Good afternoon, Leo. My question is about, because Leo knows the bloodlines of the aristocracies, is there a possibility that somebody's out there with either Persian or basically coming from the Muslim side of the house and the Anglo side of the house that can be brought up to perhaps bring Israel and the Middle East into a state of peace?
Oh, some new Abrahamic covenant to fix the old breach. I think they're planning 2 world wars, more world wars, to have us all destroy each other. But Leah?
Well, there is, for example, a Grand Lodge of Iran operating in exile. The problem with this Grand Lodge of Iran, which is a minority of a few hundred members, not more, is that at the moment they've been largely influenced by liberals and by Democrats. In fact, they operate mainly from California. So they will not be really, I think, the right solution for Iran, for example. When they criticize today Trump for being so harsh with Iran, we have to remember that his policies with North Korea gave great results. So we need to operate the same policies also with Iran. But
hold on, Leo. We got to come to break. 2 minutes. We're back. William, stay there. Let you come back to that and a few more calls on the other side with Leo Zagami. I'm Alex Jones. Third hour starts in just 2 minutes. Please spread the word on every station you're listening. All right, we're back live broadcasting worldwide. Got an article here. Catholic University opens sex-segregated prayer space for Muslim students. And I got a whole stack of news here where Muslims can rape girls in places like Finland, and the high court says it's okay. Leo Zagami is our guest. Take a few more calls. I want to go to this caller. Is there any sign of resistance to the Pope within the church? But briefly, how does the Orthodox Church and what's happening inside Russia tie into the whole global system, Leo?
Oh, very much, because within the World Council of Churches, they never really managed to been under their control Kirill, the Patriarch of Russia, and basically that Orthodox faction which takes their orders from Moscow, because the Orthodox tradition is mostly autonomous, Alex, but is divided in three main factions. One is under Istanbul, Constantinople, and Bartolomeo I. Then there is Daniel in Romania, and then we have Kirill in Russia. And they had a lot of squabbles between each other because each one, of course, is close geopolitically to the spheres of influence that, of course, on one side see Russia, and in the last few years, of course, the controversy with NATO, which supports Bartolomeo and Daniel from Romania. So we have actually a fight within the Orthodox Church, but we can say that Kirill from Russia is definitely the only independent Christian at the moment who is not subject to the influence of the World Council of Churches, though he's starting to have some relationship with Pope Francis, and of course they came together in Cuba, and later on more and more there is this coming together, but Kirill will always be, like we saw also at the inauguration date with President Putin, is a religious man. And today we had also Netanyahu in Moscow marching with Vladimir Putin. In this particular moment in the Middle East, this is a very powerful message. Netanyahu marching in the March of Victory with Vladimir Putin, the newly elected president.
Okay, we got to jump because I want to get to one more. Greg in Maryland. Greg, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Take my call. My question is this. I'm Catholic. I was raised Catholic. I'm 68 years old. Every week at the homily, the priests, no matter who it is, from what parish, whatever church, he tells us we must support this Pope, that the Pope is doing a lot of good things. I think differently. I will not follow this Pope. And I told the priest that. My question then is there any sign of resistance within the Catholic Church, because I haven't seen any, to the things this Pope is teaching, and particularly in the United States? Is there any resistance?
Greg, great question. I keep you on for an hour, but we got to jump real fast. Leo, I got 1 minute.
Well, in the U.S., the resistance is headed by Cardinal Burke, who was kicked out of his position from the Knights of Malta and might even risk to be kicked out of the Catholic Church if he continues his crusade against Pope Francis. Within Rome, we have a lot of dissent and a lot of episodes. It's the first time in history that we had posters put all over Rome against a pope. I think maybe in old times, but in modern history, we never had this happening. People always loved the pope in Rome, but now things are changing. This pope is becoming very controversial, and his stands are not supported by the majority of Italians.
There's a massive rebellion, and that's why he's consolidating power. Zagami.com. Amazing books and info there. Look forward to having you back very, very soon. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Thank you, Alex.
All right, there goes Leo Zagami. Stay with us. We're going to have the president of the National Union of Body. I'm Alex Jones, your host. We're now into the third hour. Infowars.com, PresidentPlanet.com, and NewsWars.com are the main sites. Now, Beth Chapman's with us till the bottom of the hour. She is the president of the National Bounty Hunters Association, also one of the co-stars on Dog the Bounty Hunter show. And the website's pbus.com. She's the president of the Professional Bail Agents of the United States, to be specific. And she's on with us about an incredible story that broke yesterday. Google has banned ads from bail bonds services, saying that it's racist because some minorities get bailed out. And it's the same thing with this new anti-racism deal that they've had, where they let people that commit crimes, that vandalize, that physically attack, like the Parkland shooter, out over and over again and never go to jail. That's an anti-racism program called the Promise Program in Coward County. So what's behind this larger operation? I read a stack of news yesterday where major courts in Europe are ruling Muslims can rape girls as young as 10 because of their culture. There is a move to legalize crimes being committed by certain groups of people, but also keep people from getting out of jail. So what's really behind this, and where is this leading? I see it as a way, as the Democrats push for policies that put more people in prison, like Hillary saying black people are animals and they need to be brought to heel, and giving them triple sentences for the same amount of cocaine a white person uses, as a way then to get such a giant criminal mass out there, or people that have records, that then the Democrats can take control and unionize it and basically take control of those groups. But our guest is a smart lady, and again, she is the president of the Professional Bail Agents of the United States, pbus.com, and she joins us to break this down. So Beth Chapman, thanks for coming on with us.
Hi, how are you?
I'm just trying to figure out what Google's doing. First, they want to ban gun ads and Christian ads and take Christian holidays out of their calendars, and now Apple's doing it. I mean, and then now they're trying to ban bail bonds ads. I mean, you're an expert on this. You're the president of one of the biggest groups. What are you thinking is happening?
Well, the attack on cash bail is part of a well-coordinated attack on the judicial system. You know, since before the founding of this country, bail has allowed communities to protect themselves and to secure the defendants come back to court. I mean, I think that, you know, I call it the Hug Us Hug campaign, you know, because basically we've shifted all of the sympathy from the victim now to the accused. And I think that we're forgetting that, you know, we put people in jail because they've committed a crime, not because they're poor. And I think that the left has, you know, done an excellent job. And, you know, they've done an excellent job. They've put out an amazing narrative. They've gotten a lot of people to buy into this, that, you know, people are languishing in jail because they're poor. And that, you know, the wicked, evil bail bondsmen across this country are preying on, you know, minorities and on communities that are impoverished. And, you know, it's just simply not so. You know, this is a free enterprise country. The fact is that Google and Facebook, in my opinion, have gotten too big. They're too big. They have too much power. And, you know, them to be able to shut down mom-and-pop operations that have basically been in this country since its founding should scare the hell out of everybody in this country.
Well, that's right. They want only centralized government to have power. They hate the idea of systems where, you know, trained, armed citizens, basically under the militia system, go out and get the criminals. They hate the fact that it works so much better than even centralized law enforcement agencies. And most law enforcement agencies, you know, respect and appreciate bounty hunters and bail bondsmen and women from my study. But can you talk about that relationship and this real undermining of our system? And I totally agree. And the left and the communists, they always want destabilization. They always want to get rid of the death penalty, too, so their people can get out of prison once they've engaged in the political takeover. Antifa, all of this, and you see Bezos and all these billionaires using the communist playbook to take control of society. And I agree, they're all too big. They need to be broken up now.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm glad you brought up Antifa, because when you trace this stuff all the way back to its sources and its origins, and, you know, a frequent friend of yours, Lee Stranahan, basically helped me break it down. This goes all the way back to Antifa. This goes back to Angela Davis. You know, this is all a larger movement where, you know, we are to believe as Americans that, you know, we are cruel and unusual to the people that we put in jail. And, you know, I think that we have to be mindful of the fact that, you know, look, Chicago does not have bail bonds, and they have zero accountability. And as you can see on a day-to-day basis, you know, their crime is through the roof. Their recidivism is through the roof. They have repeat offenders going in and out of the jail there with a revolving door. You know, we just cannot allow our country to become lawless. And if we do what the left wants, and just to break it down even further, what they want is a person who's accused of a crime, they want them to go into the jail, do a 8-question questionnaire to determine if they're a risk or not. They're taking the human element out of the equation. They don't even want to let the judges have discretion to set bail. They want this 8-question, you risk assessment from the Arnold Foundation to basically be their guide. Look, I've been in this business for almost 35 years. My husband's been in it, 45 years. But it has taken a long time for us to understand criminal behavior, human nature mixed in with criminal behavior. What are they trying to do? What's the drug going to tell them to do? What's their next move? You have to realize people who are addicted to opiates and heroin and things like that, those people are going to commit somewhere between 4 and 6 felonies a day. They wake up, they got to get drugs, so they go get the drug, or they go shoplift, or they go steal, or they go do whatever they have to do to get the drug.
And Beth, that's so central. Let's expand on this. We asked why there's all this crime in areas of the country. It's in all the blue areas. It's all the Democrat areas. And from human smuggling to drug dealing to child prostitution, everywhere Democrats are in control, criminals don't get sentences at all on purpose. The crime rate explodes. The Democrats are in armored fortresses. They know what they're doing. And now this is an attack on the judicial system to make it far worse. They just want to get rid of it entirely and take our guns like Chicago, New York, D.C. and other areas so we can't protect ourselves further. Why are they doing that?
I think that it's part of the bigger funding issues. Like, for instance, I have a bill right now that's going through the House of Representatives. It's House Bill 2152. They give millions and millions and millions of dollars to these social groups, like $200 million. It's huge money from the Burn JAG grants. And they don't have to account for any of that money. We don't even give grants to the military unless we know how many tanks they're going to buy. Are they going to use it for bulletproof vests? Are they buying ammo? They have to report, and they have to account for every dime and dollar that they get. But these liberal social justice groups that our government is giving the Burn JAG grant monies to, they don't have to account for it at all, and they're given millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. And I think that this was just a bigger, I don't want to use the word conspiracy, but, it was just a bigger plan to basically, put the government in control of everything.
Absolutely. Beth Chapman obviously is very famous for her TV shows. She was the youngest licensed bail bondsman person ever in Colorado. She also, of course, is married to Dog the Bounty Hunter, pbus.com. She is the president of the Professional Bail Agents of the United States organization. This is a war on law and order. And this is all part of the globalist move to consolidate federally under the UN, the Strong Cities Initiative. It's all been announced. They're attacking sheriff's departments. They're trying to get rid of sheriff's departments, have them consolidate under cities, which is backwards. It goes from the states to the counties, then to the cities. They are basically obliterating our Bill of Rights, our Constitution, our American system, and they're targeting right now the bounty hunters and bail bonds folks of this country. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, newswars.com. Please spread that link, newswars.com. Coming up in the next segment, Kristy Mazurek, one of the ladies that got reportedly abused by the New York AG, the disgraced Me Too guy, is going to be joining us. She joined Roger Stone during the War Room yesterday with Owen Schroyer. I thought it was pretty powerful. What is it about these guys? But here's the deal. Roughing up girls you're dating, it's a bad thing to do. And if it's true, you get in a lot of trouble. Calling them brown slaves and all this. Well, that's not illegal, but it's scummy. But what about covering up for Weinstein with, now they're saying 7 women that went to the police and said that he raped them. Well, he already had his driver of many years, his assistant of many years, 2 different witnesses saying he raped women all the time. He liked women that weigh like 95 pounds. You get on top of them. I'm digressing. I'm going to ask Beth Chapman about that as well. Again, she's married to Dog the Bounty Hunter, super famous in her own right, the youngest bail bondsman person ever in Colorado history, and so much more. Everybody knows who she is. She's been a gymnast, ice skater, nightclub singer, waitress, clerk in her early life, besides being a bounty hunter and a bail bondsman. And Google's saying we want it basically gotten rid of. You can't advertise with us. And that's what Matt Drudge called it and coined it, 10 years ago, was these online gulags, these online ghettos where they want to kick us all off the main web, and then they're coming for that later. They're coming for our websites later. They're coming after me. So Beth Chapman, looking at this, I think you absolutely nailed it. they're trying to make criminal activity legal, and so many Democratic leaders it turns out, are involved in all these crimes, and they were protecting the shooter at Parkland for years when he said he was going to come kill everybody. The policeman called 22 times, the FBI 3 times. It's the same every time. Why do they protect criminals? For me, they are a criminal group. They are a criminal group at the top, and below that, a bunch of lazy people that want handouts. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you. I think a lot of them are criminals. Look, let's just talk about Bob Hertzberg, Senator Bob Hertzberg in California. He is the guy who is pushing Senate Bill 10, which is the No Money Bail Act. You know, even though the California District Attorneys Association is against it, the California Alliance of Judges have come out against it, the Sheriff's Department has come out against it, the Klaus Kids Foundation, you know Mark Klaus, the Congress of Racial Equality came out against it. You know, there's just so much criminal behavior going on. And as you know, Bob Hertzberg was accused of hugging. He was hugging too many people at the state capitol. They put him under investigation, and because he's a lawyer, he's sort of, squeaking through the cracks over there. But, their credibility is at question. A lot of these guys, look at Anthony Weiner. These guys were all people who had criminal behavior going on in their own homes, in their own background. This AG from New York is absolutely outrageous. Right now, Governor Cuomo is taking the bite out of crime, literally, because he has tied the hands of law enforcement. They know that on a minor crime or misdemeanor, no one's going to jail. They don't let them put them in jail. They'll only let them get a ticket. Even currently, right now, if you go and you steal from a big box retailer, Walmart, Kmart, Target, whatever, you have to steal over $1,000 worth of merchandise before they can even call the police on you.
And for folks that don't know, that drives up the prices for everybody else. And it makes where everything's locked up and you can't look at it. And I mean, I'm in stores all the time and see people stealing. It's epidemic.
Epidemic. And, what are we doing to our law enforcement? We're putting them out there on the front line where they are faced with people who are high on drugs, who, are illegally carrying firearms, weapons of whatever, who know what they've been doing. Look, I've said this for years because of, the bounty hunting that we do. When a police officer makes a traffic stop, they have no idea who they're stopping in that car. But the guy in the car knows. The guy in the car knows if he's wanted. He knows that if he just killed someone. He knows that he just stole the car or whatever. The dangers that surround our law enforcement every single day is being compromised by these liberal governors and by the Hug-a-Thug campaign, because we would rather feel sorry for somebody who's poor and stole a car. I said to someone last week, she goes, but he was poor. And I go, right, that's why he stole the car. Because if he had his own job, he'd buy his own car. But what about the guy that works hard every day who went out and bought that car? He should just be disregarded because this, poor thug.
Well, when I was growing up in Dallas, and I only lived there 1 year when I was 16, I had my car stolen twice, and the cops would laugh and wouldn't even come out. And then when I got my car with the engine and the wheels all off of it, insurance wouldn't even cover it all, and I ended up having to get a worse vehicle each time. And then now I've been in Austin, and now we're getting all the crime is starting up. And it's to the left, it's all funny. It's all hilarious to them. And I think it's really part of a mental illness. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the Project Veritas videos of Democrats behind the scenes all over the country admitting to committing incredible crimes and covering up children being raped in schools. I mean, it's just crazy how corrupt they are. And then the whole criminal in chief, Hillary Clinton.
Well, then you've got, this Senator Whitmire, I think is his name, there in Texas. They're just now starting this Hug-a-Thug campaign there in Texas. And so you're going to start to see a lot more of this, unfortunately, because it is sweeping out of Harris County, and it's going over to Austin and Galveston and to Dallas. And, these social groups are basically coming through, and they're suing. You left Otis the town drunk in jail for too long. Look, we have an obligation. If you pick up someone who is drunk, they are impaired, and they can't drive, where should you put them? Okay? Should you drive them home? Should you put them in jail?
Supposedly just let them go kill somebody. Let them kill somebody else. Where is this all going? Can't people see Democrats and leftist countries always wreck everything?
Yeah, they do. But listen, that's a good point. But do you remember in the show Andy Griffith, Otis would come in and put himself in jail, and then in the morning when he was sober, he'd release himself. The fact is that when police put people in jail, we have to let them come down. We have to let them sober up. You cannot just release them back into the community in the way that you got them, or that's recklessly endangering your whole community. Like,
Beth,
we have just gone off the rails.
You're really making me think. You know, that's why for decades the illegal aliens get let go for drunk driving. Then for more serious crimes in San Francisco lets the guy go who admits he shot the young woman in the back and killed her. I mean, it started with the illegal aliens, and now it's just going to be all these people are able to commit any crimes they want.
Yep. And in the state of California, you know, they're going, well, we're suffering because we have so many people in jail. Well, they're suffering the bad effects of their 3 strikes and their outlaw that came, you know, many, many years ago. But moreover, they sentence people for far too much crime or for far too much time. You know, their time doesn't fit the crime. There's a lot of things that could be done to alleviate jail overcrowding. But
I agree. They'll put nonviolent marijuana people in for a couple years and then let an aggravated felon out. And the Democrats do it on purpose. They do it on purpose, Beth.
That's right. And, you know, my husband is famous for catching a guy named Andrew Luster. He was the Max Factor Cosmetics heir. He had 185 counts of rape and poisoning. Right now, in the state of California, he is eligible to be released under the Prop 47 realignment, reinvestment crap. This guy has 86 counts of rape and poisoning, and he could be freed at any time under Jerry Brown's new regime.
And they let Cruz kill all those people in Florida. Amazing. Beth Chapman, thank you so much for joining us. Please join us again in the near future, in studio or via Skype. God bless you.
Thank you, Scott. Bye-bye.
All right, we're getting her lined up on the phone line right now. Kristy Mazurek, one of the reported victims of Schneiderman, the creepy George Soros man. They're helping protect everybody in Harvey Weinstein in New York. Well, we're getting her on, ladies and gentlemen. We're running 3 giant sales right now. They're going to have to end early next week. Super Blue is our super popular, fluoride-free, high-quality, fortified with colloidal silver and iodine and tea tree oil and peppermint oil and so much more, concentrated toothpaste. People love it. But only a few percentage of the listeners buy products from us. But we've noticed this is our best-selling product. It's not our main profit center because it's so inexpensive. But we've noticed that when we offer it at 40, 50% off, we get a lot of new customers. So even though it's going to sell out the next few weeks, long before I get more towards the end of June, I am selling Super Blue toothpaste, developed by my dad, the dentist and oral surgeon, but made by the biggest organic producer toothpaste in the country. We have them produce it for us. For 50% off, that means the mouthwash, the children's toothpaste, the adult toothpaste, the immune gargle, all of it, and our ultimate turmeric formula, 50% off, Bodies. Ultimate turmeric formula, ladies and gentlemen. Bodies, whole body support. At InfoWarsStore.com, the autoimmune boosting, the inflammation lowering, all of it's legendary. 95% curcumin and level. 95% curcumin and level. Nobody else that we know of has that. The average leading competitor has a 3%. But if you've taken real turmeric, folks, you will experience it. Well, we set out to bring you the very strongest out there. To be honest, out of thousands of brands, it's so popular. There's 2 or 3 others I've gone out and looked at that claim they've got something as strong. One of them claimed stronger, and I had the company expert look at it, and they said it's impossible for there to be that much in here, period. But it's amongst the best, and it's discounted massively at a regular price. But at $26 or $29, you can't beat it. Okay. Now, Kristy Mazurek is a political activist and president of Successful Strategies, Inc., a public relations and business development firm. And, of course, you've seen her on all of television talk shows across the country, nationally. And I'm not going to get into her whole long bio, but she is a respected lady and amongst the 4 women coming out saying that the former New York Attorney General, who's now resigned, was super aggressive, super crazy, and abusive. And other women have said that he called them brown slaves. All I know is he protected Weinstein in that investigation. That's confirmed. With all these women coming forward saying Weinstein raped him, and we've got the driver that worked for him 20 years. We've got his valet, his assistant saying he raped women. So that right there puts a big black cloud over Schneiderman. But you look at the photos and videos of him. I mean, he looks like a crazed loon to me. I mean, he's got that American Psycho look. So I believe Kristy Mazurek. And the weird thing is the Democrats have kicked off this whole Me Too thing because I guess they know it hurt Hillary that, you know, she had connections to Bill and all that. And then try to project it on the Republicans. There's plenty of Republicans doing bad stuff. But, man, these Democrats tend to be taking the cake just for all the craziness. So, Kristy Mazurek, thank you for having the courage to come on the broadcast today. Tell us about yourself, how you ended up being around Schneiderman, and where you think this firestorm's coming. Because the word is, through the little bird in New York that both put us together, that there are other women about to go public. So again, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Alex. I came to meet Eric Schneiderman when he was a state senator in 2008 when I was working for a man, Assemblyman Dennis Gaberzak. I and 6 other employees of the former disgraced Assemblyman are suing him and the state of New York. And Eric Schneiderman, for the past 8 years, has tried to cover up all the salacious text messages, inappropriate videos, aggressive sexual attacks and assaults on my former female colleagues, kind of as a way to cover up for his pal, Dennis Gaberzak.
Wow. So, Kristy Mazurek is our guest, and already now, then you're saying it's expanding past the 4 women. You're saying already that he's been involved covering up, just like we know he's done with the infamous Harvey Weinstein.
Well, Alex, I can speak to just in my firsthand experience serving in the Assembly in 2008 as a communications director. Since that time, there have been dozens of women who have come forward with complaints, and through either Shelley Silver, the former Assembly Speaker, along with the Attorney General, Eric Schneiderman, they covered up, paid off, settled out of court, or bullied these women to back down. Many of them lost their jobs, including myself, Alex. When I went to the Speaker's office, my pay was cut in half by Assemblyman Gaberzak, and I waited patiently because I knew a leopard doesn't change their spots. Took a few years, and several women reached out to me and said, "Will you help?" We gathered together. We launched our formal complaint in December of 2013. An ethics commission found Assemblyman Gaberzak guilty of violations of a public officer and fined him $100,000 in December of 2015. Guess why I haven't had my day in court, Alex? 2 words, Eric Schneiderman. And it's the same words time and time and time again, and now everybody knows why.
You know, if we do a live report about something silly like meteorites or volcanoes or something, Google doesn't block it, YouTube doesn't block it, it gets 1 million views. But something like this, they demonetize it, they block it. We can see them shadow ban. When you were on with Roger Stone last night, they just banned that video where it's on the site, on YouTube, but no one can basically share it. It didn't go out to the subscribers. So I'm just adding to the ongoing cover-up that I was told by folks when that were saying I should get you on because you're so credible, that it's much, much bigger, like an iceberg beneath the surface of the cover-ups and the behavior, and really a club of men who engage in this type of abusive behavior, and that he's been promoted to this high position to then cover it up on a statewide basis.
As I said, he was a state senator at the time, and during my service, there were at least 2 other assemblymen who had complaints from more than one female employee lingering. Vito Lopez is one, Micah Kellner is another, and of course, Mr. Gaberzak. Eric has gone so far using the Attorney General's office to stifle us and to make us miss critical timelines, so we are forced into appeals. I have always said to my attorney, I will fight this to the Supreme Court. I don't live if I'm living in a cardboard box. because in the time since I filed this notice of claim, Mr. Schneiderman has come back with his Attorney General's office and levied charges against me for election law violations. I am the daughter of a former Erie County legislator, Director of Veterans Affairs, and my family has been in public service for 7 decades. I think I know how to run a campaign cleanly, and I don't find it too coincidental that when I went after Assemblyman Gaberzak, Eric Schneiderman and the Democrats here in Erie County came after me.
Wow, so they're not letting us promote your interview with Stone. I'm sure they'll try to block this, but it's going out on hundreds of radio stations and hundreds of TV stations, and more than now 80 cable stations. We're growing, but people really should get mad because it's not just the sexual harassment or reportedly slapping women around that did have consensual sex and then calling them slaves, but it's the cover-up and the repercussions and the persecution and just the gangsterish behavior.
They're bullies. They're absolutely bullies. And they know that, especially, I appreciate the Me Too movement, but as I said to Roger yesterday, coming after people almost a decade ago, it was the Me First movement. And they tried to stifle, and it kind of imploded. But the former assemblyman and other colleagues have a friend in Eric Schneiderman who's a little devil.
That's right. Kristy Mazurek, stay with us. I want to come back and talk about the next shoe to drop, what you think's coming next, and how do you ever become the star of the Me Too movement? I mean, that's what makes it even sicker. We'll be right back, breaking down the crazed maniac. Kristy Mazurek, like Zurich, Switzerland, is our guest. I love how I butchered her name a little bit, so it sounded like the guy from the state senate she'd been fighting with. And I was like, that name sounds very similar. And then one of the producers is like, it's Zurich, Mazurek, like Zurich, Switzerland. Did I finally get it right, Kristy?
Hey, that's okay. You know, it's a Polish last name, so I have to cut some people some slack. But I do know Eric Schneiderman knows how to say my name, because he certainly has said it a lot in the last 5 years.
I bet. So again, you know the inside baseball, somebody from the start exposing this. When the House of Cards comes down, which is now happening, it's way more than just these 4 women saying that he got really vicious with them, called them names. Did you ever hear anything like this from other people? Because the guy looks like a crazed maniac. I mean, I'm not into guys, but if I was a girl, he looks really creepy.
Well, let's just say this. I find it really disingenuous and insincere when people are saying they're so shocked to hear that this has happened. I was rolling in the streets of Albany for several years, and Mr. Schneiderman was never at a loss for trying to track down a new date, so to speak.
Well, I know folks that know him. I was talking to some lawyers that know him. They say he is a maniac, just period. He's bouncing off the walls.
You know, as I mentioned to you, I'm facing election law violations, and I want to be very candid about that. I am facing 2 felonies for taking photographs with 2 different candidates, with my father, who is a Silver and Bronze Star decorated Vietnam veteran, who, as I mentioned, was a county legislator and a director of Veterans Affairs, and it was for a campaign. The candidates didn't know what those pictures are going to be used for, so that's the comedy of it. And the fact...
Yeah, but hold on. I mean, what weird esoteric law is this? Because they're recriminating against you now. I guess they've been recriminating against other women, but how is it a crime to take a photo with your father and then use it in a campaign ad?
Well, they're claiming I coordinated. Well, I actually have spoken to the attorneys that...
Yeah, but aren't you allowed to take photos for your campaign?
You know, it's crazy, isn't it? At my own home. I can't have my father come to my residence and take a photograph of the candidate.
So that's the type of things he charges women with that speak up is just weird. Just like he's been suing Trump, what is it, 50-something times?
For sure. And again, how he has done it, and it's not just, I think I'm one of the few females that he's come after in the political realm. But as you know, there have been numerous politicians, former politicians, that have come under his umbrella of election law violation, and they wind up getting fines. But it's after several years of intimidation by state police investigators, the FBI, the Inspector General's office, the U.S. Attorney's office, hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees that I and my colleagues have had to pay out to no end. And just to have this schmuck run amok of people's lives, knowing what I knew about him.
Let me bring this up. Have you seen Samantha Bee, her interview with him last year, worshiping him as the white python, weird sexual references, saying she's got a crush on him. He's the ultimate man for standing up for women. Here's a little boil down of Samantha Bee and her worship fest of Schneiderman. Here it is.
Today is November 8th, which means Donald Trump was elected president exactly 100 years ago. I'm kidding. It's only been a year. Oh my, where'd this come from? President Bone Spur has had more endurance than predicted, especially...
Okay, so that's the intro to the original piece. Here's our little boil down that our own John Gonzalez put together. We've all heard of Spider-Man. Well, here's Schneiderman.
We've been conducting an investigation for more than 4 months into the Weinstein Company, and our investigation, as demonstrated by the petition filed yesterday, uncovered a pervasive pattern of sexual harassment, intimidation, discrimination, and abuse at the Weinstein Company.
Schneiderman does whatever a Schneider can. Only he can save us all.
This white mamba might be the one to save us.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Why have you forsaken us?
Kristy Mazurek is our guest here for a few more minutes. How did the House of Cards, with you exposing him for over a decade, how did the House of Cards begin to fall for him? And now these 4 women close to him saying he's this demonic maniac, calling him racial slurs, brutalizing him. He says it's all just playtime, that he reportedly just runs around, like you said, like a maniac, hitting on one woman after the next. He looks like the Joker, you know, out of DC Comics or Marvel, whatever it is. How did the House of Cards begin to unravel? I mean, I guess as he became more and more this big celebrity and took on the leadership of the Me Too movement, was it just too much for these women?
I think what happens, and I have been in contact with other females who have been victims of sexual harassment by former senators and former assembly people. And I think what happens is their courage. These guys that are constantly victimizing people, constantly bullying people, threatening them with their jobs, they think they're untouchable. Even though that there's this underlying undulation of women finally saying enough is enough. And I think that was the fatal flaw. I think in recent weeks, I know I've spoken to the New York Times. I know that I've had numerous conversations with a former elected official's victims, Vito Lopez. We've banded together to demand that Andrew Cuomo actually make change to the law, because one of the interesting things that they told my group of 6 is we didn't file within a few weeks of leaving our position. Therefore, the case really is a moot point. Really? I don't see that in the case with Bill Cosby, and I certainly don't see it in the case with Harvey Weinstein. So
well, let's talk about this. How much credibility does it give it, though, that Trump 4 years ago tweeted that, look at, the governor getting caught, look at, which is consensual, so I don't really have an issue, even though he's a creep. And then you've got Weiner, the big pervert, going after underage girls. That is super evil and disgusting. But the point is, how known is Schneiderman that back when Trump put that out, he wasn't even as powerful as he is now. So it sounds like Schneiderman is just known as a maniac. I mean, what other shoes do you think are going to drop? What else do you know about Schneiderman?
I think I'll say this. Now that he has left the building, New York State is a better place for it. And the females that work for New York State can finally begin to feel safer. Not safe, because there's many creeps still around and the cover-up still continues. So what I think this does is it begins to unravel this kind of yarn, this knitted kind of Afghan that's been going on, where I'll cover your back if you cover mine. I think this begins the unraveling. And I do think that more victims are going to come out. And I had a sick feeling in my stomach thinking, I truly hope this hasn't reached a level of horrific violence. This is bad enough. I just hope that there wasn't some horrific activity going on.
Well, they're a bunch of gangsters, and Como's tied to it all as well. And his brother at CNN isn't just on record hit and run and drunk and then gets away with it because who he is. Supposedly it gets a lot worse. So that's why they're trying to be the leaders of the Me Too movement and put it out there, because they know they're so guilty of stuff that they hope that somehow gives them credibility as leaders of it, so no one will suspect that they're covering up for Harvey Weinstein, you name it. Any other points you'd like to make, Kristy Mazurek?
Alex, you are spot on. And I watched and witnessed with my own position. It was a series of things. Once the heat started coming on, you were fired or you were told to quit. And anybody that you went to also had some skeletons and baggage. And as I mentioned to Roger, it was like Shangri-La in the halls of the New York State Legislature.
Wow. Hopefully come back with us to chronicle this, as you've been exposing it from the beginning. A lot of courage. We appreciate that, Kristy. If people want to email you or call you or contact you or read what you've put out before, where's the best place for them to visit?
They can... Google is a great place. I know that Google's giving me a problem with sharing some of my stuff. But my story's pretty well documented out there, and I've let Eric Schneiderman in the Attorney General's office take his swings first. They can reach out to me on Facebook through you folks there, and they're more than welcome to email me.
All right, Kristy Mazurek, thank you so much for coming on with us. We'll be in contact. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of New York, Lionel's going to be co-hosting the 4th Hour with me, former prosecutor, author, Mike. All right, Lionel is taking over, former prosecutor, best-selling author, TV host, radio host, LionelMedia.com. Just doing a great job, and I appreciate him hosting the 4th Hour. We're going to be launching more syndicated shows soon on TV and cable. We already have gotten over 300 TV stations, and now it's over 80 cable stations, just as we went on some new satellites a few months ago. But they're all like, you're 10 hours a day live. You just re-air that. We really want you after 6 to go to at least midnight live. We want to just put you on whole sub-channels we have and put a few hours of your main shows on our other channel and then promote it. You see, they've seen Sinclair make the move with billions of dollars with libertarian nationalist media into local TV. Just like in the late 70s, early 80s, AM was going out everywhere. Some smart folks went, we'll put conservative broadcasting, Roger Ailes, on AM. We'll be able to buy them up for nothing. We'll get the advertising and we'll relaunch a revolution. Not that Limbaugh's perfect, but it was a lot better than the Democrats and the globalists. That was the internet of the day, was AM radio. And now it's still there today because it's got something people can't find anywhere else. And then now they've got the FM translators and their own websites. And it's a multimedia thing. That's what I came out of in the 90s. But now I always thought, why have my own channel on cable? It's so expensive. It's like a glamour thing. And people just want it on demand anyways. I said, I want to go right to UHF, VHF. And they told me about 5 years ago, they go, oh, you can't. Yeah, you can't have your own channel and then also go directly to UHF, VHF, and local cable under the rules because you get paid off the carriage rights. You got to pay for the channel. I said, that's a scam. I'm going to go directly to TV, directly to radio, directly to UHF, directly to VHF, directly to cable. But I never got around to it. Building studios, trying to hire people, got the wrong satellite a few years ago, only got on like, 30-something stations. Now doing this, we hit it. It's like, and George Soros is upset. He's got articles out saying, shut me down. So here's the problem. They know we're launching right now. We're launching. They're trying to blow us up on the tarmac. But as soon as I get other shows ready and the crews hired to run them, we're going to try to go 24 hours a day live by the end of the year because the stations want it. So hopefully Lionel and others will be part of these roundtable broadcasts. But I wanted to just briefly, and we're going to come back, and I got another question for him, and then he's going to take over, ask him, what do you think of that plan? Because they see Sinclair spending $2 billion to go libertarian, conservative, local. That brings value to UHF, VHF cable. They know the model. That's got the Democrats totally panicking. Well, that's the model I intuitively wanted to follow.
Well, not only does that scare them, but what's scaring them is that there is an existential threat that they are facing as to the usual platform. Alex, this is my 30th year, and I started in talk radio when Rush Limbaugh came about and before the conservative, and I use that term just for shorthand purposes, before conservative programming took over. Then, once it became popular with Rush, everybody wanted to duplicate it. Well, now, as we're seeing, regular, traditional, mainstream media, entertainment, and news platforms are dying. They're facing, yet again, an existential threat. What you, and I'm not saying it just because you're here, but it helps, what you represent is something that is, forget the conservative message, it's beyond that. So it's not that people can say, oh, you want to hear the Alex Jones series or channel? Oh, yeah. Is he conservative? Maybe. It's bigger than that. Do you know that most people believe what we're saying? Forget we, you're saying. What you're doing is you're transcending left and right.
And that's why I asked you, stay right there, because this is so credible. They try to say we're Republican or Democrat, we're this or that, put us in a box. We're Sandy Hook deniers, which I'm not. They do that to hope to brand it, because really it's just freedom. It's real diversity, and you're about to see hundreds and hundreds of new shows on UHF, VHF, cable that aren't Alex Jones as people figure this out, because they still have a monopoly on cable, but not for long. We'll be back. I was late getting back in the chair from that short break because they were handing me piles of new TV affiliates coming in and saying, look at these, you got to cut promos for all these. They all want promos. And we're talking about 20 station, 15 station group, 30 station group, 5 cable station group, 10 cable station group, little towns, big cities, I don't care. And by the way, we're free to air, meaning on the TV side, I want to work it on the radio too, all the ads, you can take them all. I'll just plug a few minutes each hour our own products because I just want to reach people. So what Lionel's getting at here, prosecutor, lawyer, started out in talk radio, been on the top TV station in New York for many years, is that as they try to kick us off the internet, as they try to have total control over the cable channels, everyone just tunes out. And so UHF, VHF, and local cable, the basic cable's figured out, what I've been saying for 5 years, put local programming on that's actually interesting, put a talk radio style format of taking calls, covering news, live and real, unscripted, it'll get huge ratings. Well, it is, but then every station can't pay or find their own host, so you have some local news mixed in with it, but then you have an Alex Jones or a Lionel, or a Matt Drudge if he was to come back, on and on and on. And all these great talents from talk radio that's consolidated and kicked them off, they just go now to their own programs to television, locally or nationally, and it's like AM radio was about to go bankrupt in the late 70s, 80s. Talk radio comes along in 1980, 81, 82, Bruce Fine, Rush Limbaugh, Roger Ailes. So now you see Sinclair, stations just joined us. I know I just said this earlier, but some stations don't carry that 5 minutes. $2 billion being invested in putting on nationalist conservative television locally. And the media acts like that's illegal, like in the controlled corporate leftist media. They go, oh, look, this is horrible. Oh, look, Sinclair put out news packages that were pro-Trump. What do you think all the other news channels do? They put out pro-Hillary, anti-Trump packages. So, yeah, they're packaging this. That's Sinclair, though, not with InfoWars. This is the next level of openness and freeness, and I thought they'd be hungry for it. It's like piranhas. They get results. The station owners are patriots. They get that we're not what CNN says we are. So we're reaching a critical tipping point. And here's the deal. They all have their own websites. They all have their own podcast. They all have their own things. And so when you're free to air, they pick you up, they repackage it and put it back out in whole or part. Now they think they're censoring you on the web. You're all over these other platforms going out on the web as well. And it becomes a total synergy building those communities. So Lionel, I wanted to get your take on this, and then I wanted to move on to one other subject as you take over.
Well, a couple of things. What you're talking about, Alex, is doing almost modular programming. In the old days, we called it a donut. Let me give you an example. Years ago, remember there was a guy named Jim Dance? He was a fisherman or something. He had a Tennessee hat.
Yes.
This guy years ago would say, listen, I will go to a radio station or TV station. I'll give you my show. Just give me 2 minutes of commercials. And I'll make deals with Shakespeare, Rods and Reels, or Evan Root. The guy made a fortune. And they said, you can't make money selling fishing. Oh, yeah? Well, here you come along.
And by the way, that's what I thought about that guy who was on every channel in Dallas when I was a kid, and then every hotel room I ever got in for a decade later in any other city. I thought, hey, direct sale, when they started taking my sponsors 10 years ago, their attacks on me made us innovate, and you just literally picked my brain about who I was inspired by.
He always amazed me when somebody comes along. And let me also tell you something, Alex. I know what I'm talking about. If you go to anybody of any of the supposed liberal bastions, whether it's Moonves or Iger or whoever is in charge of NBC, I don't know, and you said, listen, businessman to businessman, here's what I'm doing. They'll say, we're in. We're in. Look at Roseanne. Look at Roseanne and Bob Iger, how smart they are on ABC. Tim Allen's coming back. It works. They don't care about this. If you think they're ideologically connected, you're nuts. Because what you're going to do is, but the only thing you've got to do, Alex, remember I'm telling you this, and if you ever violate this, I will haunt you. I will haunt you. And if I predecease you, I will walk through your house with chains and haunt you day and night. You've got to give them more, Alex, than you've ever done. You can't dilute it. The moment somebody says, you know, could you just, that's it, I'm out. Because they want you to be bigger than ever. I know a lot about also professional wrestling. You talk about professional wrestling, NASCAR, name the particular, these quote, niche programming. That is so big. Talk to Vince McMahon.
I was about to say, none of it's niche. The big centralizers, like I've told Clear Channel, guaranteed models, instead of them, going bankrupt, we could triple their profits. They know that too. And they won't do it because they're owned by big global corporations that want it all to fail. They want it to be all about the big centralized ad agencies. But instead, they won't give in to reality, so they're all dying. They're all dying, and it's totally insane.
Let me show you how stupid this is. You know about the no buy list, right? You've heard about that? Okay. There are companies, there are people, like, for example, Michael Savage, station after station, gets the biggest ratings of ever, and they have this no-buy list. Because of why? I don't know. It's like, what are you, nuts? You're losing money. But they're so... They're
into the control, and they're into thinking they're part of the establishment by joining these elites that are actually screwing them over. That's what CNN, MSNBC, they're all about. We tell you who you can have on. We tell you who you can go on. We tell, people like Ben Shapiro, don't go on Alex Jones' show. It's all about gatekeeping. That brings me to this next video. Here is Como with his corrupt brother covering up for Weinstein and all the rest of it through the AG, which you're going to cover, I know, coming up. And he says, oh, you can't be on with Alex Jones. He says Sandy Hook didn't happen. Totally out of context, twisting what I said, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, oh, that's the bad guy. And then Stone's talking about censorship, but here they are trying to brand that we're these evil people when it's CNN that lied us into a war that killed millions of people. Here it is.
What do you say is the best reason to read Roger Stone's book?
Well, what's interesting to me is when I post the link to buy this book on Google, within hours, they call it spam. When I post an ad to buy it at Amazon or Barnes & Noble, they call it, they reject the ad. This kind of internet censorship is very, very dangerous. It's what we're experiencing at InfoWars. I do a show
Who's
there.
they, by the way? Who is
the tech left, the large
tech left?
Yes, indeed. So I do a show, as you do, 5 days a week. It's a lot of work. I can't get my show loaded on YouTube, my InfoWars show, because it's controversial. I'm against censorship.
You know what the problem is with InfoWars. You know what Alex Jones has done in the interest of publicity.
And you're familiar with the First Amendment, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, on that basis, I don't think anybody should
Just because you have the right to say something doesn't mean it's right to say it.
Millions and millions of people are
smearing the Newtown people. You can't be on board.
I disagree with some of the things he has said, but even he has backed off that. The point is censorship, and we're struggling to stay alive because we can be arbitrarily censored, and that is dangerous.
All right. Roger Stone, thank you for making the case. Your book is Stone's Rules, How to Win at Politics, Business, and Style. Roger Stone. Thank you very much for being here.
The book is available at InfoWarsStore.com. But just how they don't show what I supposedly say, any of it. Oh, he's the bad guy. Right. You're not allowed to he deserves to be preemptively censored. Well, once they set that precedent, it's everybody. Once we're all deplatformed, Lionel.
One of the things which I would love for you to do one time, and it's easy for me to say this because it's your money, but I love to say, okay, Tell you what you do. Let's get an amount, and you pick the charity of your choice, and I'll pick the charity of my choice, whatever it is. Now, show me where I said whatever it is you think I said, because I'm telling you I didn't say it. Repeat. It's a blanket.
Show me where I say there's Martian bases with human slaves. Never said it. $100,000. Show me where I said it. They can't do it.
No. Or better yet, listen, Cuomo. Whatever. I don't even know what you think I said, but I know I didn't say it. I know that whatever you think I said, I didn't say it. So I dare you to tell me, because you don't listen to me.
Exactly. Lionel's coming up. He's loaded for bear on the other side. LionelMedia.com, newswars.com. Spread all the live video links, folks. It's critical.
All righty. Lionel back with you. Is that Rockwell? Somebody's watching me. That's my it's by Ethel Merman. I want to pick up where I left off with Alex, and this is so critical, because sometimes it's very important for us to figure out exactly just what it is we're talking about. Because I hate labels. Once you label something, then you spend your time deciding whether you're in the label. It's like, for example, I'm a country music fan. George Jones is God. I mean, God. Not to be disrespectful to God, of course, or to George Jones. And I got friends of mine that say, yeah, but do you think that maybe Johnny Cash? Is it more of a torch and twang? Is it more of a rockabilly? I said, would you stop? Who cares what it's called? I just like it. That's it. Now leave me alone. Is it conservative? Is it libertarian? Are you paleo-conservative? Are you more of a Rockefeller Republican? I don't even know what that means. I don't know. I hate these labels. What I love, and what I think you love, is this thing called the truth. This brutal, unvarnished truth. And you hear people say, I don't want any bias in the media. And that sounds good. But I think what we're trying to say is something a little bit different. I want analysis. If I think I broke my leg, and some doctor hands me an x-ray and says, what do you think? I say, well, I don't know what this is. Well, it's the truth. Yeah, but I don't know how to read this. Well, let me get the x-ray taken. Let me get a radiologist in here. He'll help you. He'll comment and analyze the truth. That's what we're doing. It's what I'm doing. It's what I like to think I'm doing. May not be perfect, because I don't want somebody just telling me, just handing me something and saying, you figure it out. Sometimes I need somebody to say, well, what does this mean? And you take a risk with that. I realize that. But I want you to understand that's what I like. And I like what Alex does. I like when Alex tells me, what does that mean? I don't know when this was. And I know right now the telepathic staff is so incredible, because I'm on with David Knight. And sometimes I'll say something and the words aren't even out of my mouth, and they've got the graphic up of the story that I'm talking about. And how they do this, I have no idea. And it's scary. But I'll give you an example. Years ago, and I don't know when, I was listening to Alex, and he talked about, and he says, I think it might have been Comcast. I don't know. But they're listening into you on your home cable boxes. And I thought, and I never questioned him. At first I did. I thought, this guy's making this up. They don't do that. Well, that lasted about a couple hours until they kept handing us these stories one after another. This was 15 years ago. I don't even know. And I thought to myself, this is amazing. Look at this. 2013. And I could have sworn it was even before, that could have been yet Cup 1. There was a story even before that. I'm thinking 95. I know it sounds crazy. But it was one story after another. And the first time I met Alex, I got to tell you this. It was in New York. There was an event called the Talkers Magazine. It's a yearly summit. All the talk radio people. And I said, listen, I asked the publisher at the time, please let me introduce Alex. Please, you gotta let me do it. Okay, I will. No, you don't understand. There can be no mistake, no room for error. Okay. Now let go of my throat, because I get kind of excited. And the first time I met him, I said, you are in good hands. Because the first time Alex looked at me, he looked at me like, who the hell is this guy? Because these people don't know. They've been doing talk radio. They're a bunch of scaredy cats. Talk radio was dying. It's dying. It used to be so exciting. But I walked up and I said, I introduced him, and I'm in this room. We're right there on 3rd Avenue. Never forget this. I said, let me tell you one thing among others that Alex does, which I love with the most. I'm a lawyer by profession, trial lawyer. I love citation. Don't just tell me that's what the law is. Show me the law. Don't tell me what you think your interpretation of the Second Amendment is. Show me. Cite it. Chapter and verse. Whether he knows it or not, whether he's just inadvertently doing it, he always gives citation. Here's the story. Just now. It's a part of the show. Alex's middle name is, don't take my word for it. This is what's happened. This is what somebody's saying. And not some fly-by-night. Not some kid in the middle of his basement covered in Cheeto dust with a laptop. These are somewhat and quasi sometimes legitimate stories. And I remember at the time, people in the room, they were looking around like, this guy's crazy. You've heard this. That Alex Jones. He's crazy. I love this. And I found myself saying, crazy, huh? Name one thing. Go ahead. And I know that they don't know what they're talking about. But see, because what we do is we believe stuff and we repeat stuff. Let me explain. What do I mean by that? There are things that we say sometimes and we don't even know why we say it. We just say them. We just say them because we think we know what we're talking about. A friend of mine is a physician. He told me in medical school there was this one professor who told him, how do you know what you know? How do you know this? How do you know Alex Jones is whatever, like Cuomo just did with Roger Stone? How do you know? What exactly was it? I don't know. I just kind of, I heard. Yeah, but what in particular? Name it. I've got time. Tell me. Well, he just says stuff. What does he say? And they don't know. Because within his community, this particular meme, this trope, this idea, is just passed around. And the thing that I'm telling you, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, see, I was red-pilled on 9/11. I was here in New York, and my world changed, but I couldn't figure out what was going on. I didn't even know what I was seeing then. I was traumatized. I mean, it was a surreal, I will never be able to tell you what it is like, what it was like when you're in this city and the whole world is looking at you and I'm thinking, is this a movie set? Is this happening? This is not supposed to be happening. The smell, the smell of this party for days, it was everywhere. It would, believe me, it was like a Night of the Living Dead. People were zombified. And I remember the time saying, I don't understand it. There's something that doesn't make any sense. I'm here and I see what's going on, but I'm looking out on the news and I don't know. I don't see it. And this is really before Alex. I heard about Alex kind of, but I didn't. He didn't mean as much to me as he would then. And I remember at the time, I'll never forget, I was on the air and we're just talking, and I happened to look at something and they kept talking about this Flight 93. I remember I'm going crazy, but when we return, I will explain to you how this moment happened, why Alex is critical, why InfoWars is critical, why all of this is critical, and why you must do everything in your power to support it. Stay tuned. Honored to be here. Honored to be here. I want to pick up where I left off. We all go through these moments. I don't want to keep calling it the red pill moment. But you know what I'm talking about. It's so apropos. Why this show is so critical and why. Because I tell you one thing. When Trump was running, he said, I'm going to do a couple of things here. One, I'm going to talk about, I'm interested in Obama's birth certificate. I thought, wow, oh my God. And I had no reason necessarily to believe one way or the other, but I'm thinking, I love this guy. He's actually daring to touch the third rail. Oh my God. Oh, Wheezy. Oh, I'm coming to you, honey. You know, I'm having a Fred Sanford moment. What, are you kidding me? He's actually going to talk about that? The birth certificate? Ooh, we don't talk about that. I want to talk about it because I'm wacky that way. If you tell me I can't do something, guess what I want to do? Then he said, I'm going to get to vaccines. Vaccines! Oh, my God, you kidding? I'm even going to pick Bobby Kennedy Jr. Remember that? Whatever happened to that one? Anyway, I thought this is great. Why? Because I have something about vaccines? Because I have something about birth certificates? Do I know? No, because I want to talk about things that people tell me I can't talk about. Because as soon as you tell me that, as soon as parents say, when you remember when you were a kid, they say, none of your business. Don't worry about that. You're a kid. That's what I want to talk about. Why? Because I'm your parent. That's the end. That's what I want to do. So I was telling you this. So after 9/11, when I was on the air, they kept talking about this Flight 93. And I'm looking. I'm on Google Images. I'm thinking, where the hell is Flight 93? Where is it? I keep seeing this hole in the ground. I didn't know. I see this hole in the ground. What is this? Anybody see Flight 93? Yeah. I keep seeing this. I thought it was a barbecue or something. It's just fire trucks and there's this dimpled divot with steam. I don't know what the hell this is. I'm looking for a plane crash. And somebody with me said, no, that's it. I said, what do you mean that's it? That's what I saw. I said, where the hell's the plane? Where's the plane? I'm just asking. And I got these calls. People said, what are you getting at? I said, what do you mean, what am I getting at? I'm asking, where's the plane? Oh, you're one of them, huh? Who? One of those. Who are you talking about? The conspiracy people. The who? You're a conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying there's a conspiracy. It takes two people confederating together, agreeing to do something. I don't even know. I'm asking, where's a plane? How did I get from where's the plane to I'm a conspiracy theorist? And I was off and running. And I'm walking around here and I said, does anybody know where the plane is? Don't talk about the plane. Why can't I talk about it? But because you can't. You just accept it. Just don't talk about it. I thought, this is nuts. I have no ulterior motive. And then, Alex, he understood. He said, I'm thinking the same thing. Better yet, I meet a lot of other people who look around and say, you know what? Not for nothing, as we say in Hell's Kitchen here, but I want to know where the plane is too. And that was one of my moments. These things that just say, I'm not alone. It doesn't make sense to me. Take the Schneiderman case. Eric Schneiderman, right? Big story. I know, look at them. That's it. Just this magic disappearing act. Okay, Eric Schneiderman. Eric Schneiderman, I'm not trying to be, this is called I'm hitting my machine here. I'm not trying to be, whenever somebody does this, you always have to say something like, now, I'm not saying all cops are bad, or I'm not saying, I'm not saying that, that the Me Too thing is, no, I'm not saying, okay, let me get that out of the way. This guy's a lousy date. He's a vicious, horrible person. He's a punk, a thug, a perv, a skeevy degenerate, and he's hurt people, women, and he should go to jail if necessary, but that is not systematic sex trafficking. We're confusing this guy with big stuff. And let me ask you this question. How come Ronan Farrow all of a sudden overnight is the Mike Wallace of his generation? Who keeps giving him this stuff? Ronan Farrow was walking around. He was on that horrible show on MSDNC. Remember that one? It was horrible. It was so bad I'd rather lick a belt sander or drink bleach or suck a hospital mop or a bar rag than watch that horrible Ronan Farrow. Oh, and by the way, don't tell me he looks like Frank Sinatra. I don't want to hear that. I don't know where you got that from. Oh, you armchair Mendelian geneticist. Don't tell me he looks like Sinatra. I don't know where you people got this crazy idea that he looks like Frank Sinatra. He looks exactly like Woody Allen. Exactly. Don't even, what are you doing? Don't look at that. Don't look at him. Look the other way. Avert your eyes. Don't, because you can't. Remember, another rule too is never trust your instincts if you watch mainstream media. So all of a sudden, Ronan Farrow comes along, and he's got the Harvey Weinstein story. I mean, he's got him, dead to rights. Did you do that yourself, Ronan? How did you get all these people? Okay, I'm buying it. Hey, NBC, I kind of work for you. Do you want to hear this thing I've done? No. What? No. No, don't you want this big? Not Harvey Weinstein. What are you, nuts? We're MSDNC. He's Hillary's guy. No. Get out of here. Okay, New Yorker. Pulitzer Prize. They're a news organization. I mean, does anybody realize there's a news? Oh, and by the way, today NBC cleared itself of any wrongdoing involving Matt Lauer. Did you see that one? Oh, yeah, you probably missed it. I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute. How can they clear themselves? Simple. You hire a couple of law firms and you pay them to clear you. And you ask your employees, hey, by the way, we're going to have some of our law firms going to ask you some questions, and we want you to answer the question. Oh, your job's not on the line, by the way, but it wants you to answer these questions. You know about Matt Lauer? We had no idea about Matt Lauer. Meredith Vieira was joking about finding sex toys. And look, I know it's a family show. NBC, understand this, NBC didn't know about this when everybody knew about Matt Lauer in the world. Everybody. It's ridiculous. They had roast for this guy. They were laughing about his prowess and his Lothario status. So these people cleared themselves. Okay, so Ronan Farrow, he's Mr. now. I guess NBC doesn't want him. He says, where else do I go? And all of a sudden, he gets another expose, I guess. He just, gumshoe, shoe leather, detective journalism, and he exposes Eric Schneiderman. Now, Eric Schneiderman, a while back, was responsible for killing the NXIVM investigation. Why is that? I don't know. Isn't that weird? I think it's strange. And by the way, you notice how euphemisms work? Let me explain. When you want something to seem kind of you call it something else. You use a euphemism. For example, NXIVM is wholesale human sex trafficking. But if you call it a sex cult, it's like the old George Carlin football, baseball. If you call it a cult, well, cult sounds almost voluntary. Almost you knew about it. You kind of agreed to it. It's a cult you found yourself in. It's a cult. You oops. When this woman, Allison Mack, starts talking, and she is, it all starts tumbling down. So do you think our friend there, Mr. Schneiderman's a limited hangout? I'll explain more coming up. All right, my friends, Lionel with you. Glad to be here. Honored to be here. This august, I keep saying radio because it's like I say album, and I don't really mean to. It's age, I guess. But I want to finish off. You know what that thing called limited hangout is, don't you? It's a great concept because what I'm doing is I'm looking at this Schneiderman case here, and I'm thinking to myself, you're making this out to be what it's not. He's a creep. He's horrible. He's hit women, hurt women. One woman had almost tinnitus in her ear, and this guy is a brute. But it's not systematic, international sex trafficking. But they're making it sound like, okay, we got Schneiderman. Okay, folks, nothing to see here. Let's move on. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, hold it. What about NXIVM? You mean the antacid? No. Upstate New York, Allison Mack. What about that? What about Harvey Weinstein? Oh, you're going to love this one. This is the best one. Harvey Weinstein, we're looking around here, and everybody's asking Cy Vance, Cyrus Vance, Secretary of State under Carter, this is his son. They asked Cy Vance, hey, what's happening with the Harvey Weinstein case? We'll get to it. What do you mean we'll get to it? Woman after woman coming forward with this guy? What's going on? So all of a sudden they say, well, guess what? We're going to be impaneling a grand jury. Great! We're going to get to the bottom of that. This sexual predator. Oh, no. They're not looking at that. They're going more of a Capone style. And I read this the other day in Deadline or one of the entertainment columns. I said, what? Capone? Yeah, we're gonna go after him, more of a Capone thing, the financial. I said, this sex predator, this guy who is the tip of the iceberg, him, you're going after for some kind of financial irregularity? Yeah, and he hired Ben Brafman, who probably is the best criminal defense lawyer. He was responsible for getting DSK. Remember Dominique Strauss-Kahn? Remember that guy? He handled his case and others. And now he gets Alan Dershowitz, who's Trump's BFF all of a sudden. He get him to handle the kind of the search warrant issue. I thought, you son of a... That's what you're doing? Now, I'm thinking to myself, this is odd. It's like, enough with Schneiderman. He's small potatoes. He's nothing. I know you're throwing him out like, oh, boy, we got the big tuna here. Sorry. What's going on here? And imagine this. I'm just saying. Imagine a movie or a novel that I wrote. And in my novel, there's this character named Harvey Weinstein. And Harvey Weinstein says, I want everybody to understand something. I better not be going down. I better not be going down in terms of, being sent up the river, cracking rocks upstate. Don't you think you're going to lower the boom on me? Do you know who I am? Hey, Hillary, remember me? Hey, Clinton, remember me? Hey, DNC, I was your boy. I was the one with all the fundraisers. I was the one who put out the message. Anytime you needed money from me, I took care of you. I was a part of the deep state. I was a part of it. Oh, me? At the news? We were under the rubric, under the umbrella of the entertainment arm of this. I know I'm just bastardizing the great Frank Zappa's line, but he says something to the effect that entertainment or Hollywood is the entertainment branch of the Pentagon. And all of a sudden, they say, you're going after me. You knew all about me. And what about you, Bill? What have you done? They're lowering the boom on Schneiderman. Look at what Bill Clinton was accused of doing. Does any of this make any sense? Oh, wait a minute, hold on. I guess I'm a conservative. Because I'm asking questions. So Harvey Weinstein is, I'm just saying, in my novel, in my character, Harvey Weinstein would be saying, don't you even think of this, because I know a lot of stuff. So if I've got to, get caught, if I've got to go down, then you better hit me with something that I can deal with, but not this. Lo and behold, now there's some financial thing, because what he knows in Hollywood, look at Corey Feldman. Remember Corey Feldman? Oh, Corey's a nut. See, whenever we don't like you, or we don't like what you're saying, you're crazy. Pedophilia, Hollywood, Hollyweird, Pedowood. Oh my God, it's unbelievable. And let me tell you something also. Something which nobody ever thinks about. The great people out there, you can call them the Anons or the crowdsourcers. You've got people who are able to look now at all kinds of people and notice whether that unique little mark, that unique little brand, whether it appears elsewhere. So you have this, I call it guerrilla grand juries. People who are, like yours truly, like Mr. Jones and his incredible team, individuals who are saying to law enforcement agencies, you know what, thanks a lot, but we don't trust you. We'll do it. Citizen journalism, vigilante journalism, civilian journalism. We'll get to the bottom of this. And if that Eric Schneiderman is not a limited hangout, if he is not the sacrificial lamb to kind of throw you off the scent, like the rodeo clown. Remember what a rodeo clown does? Charging bulls coming this way. He gets in the way, he says, hey, over here. Stormy Daniels. You know, I remember years ago there was Cool Hand Luke. Remember the scene where he escapes and the dogs are after him? You know, Paul Newman. And it was either Cool Hand Luke or another one, I forget. But the guy who was out, the escapee, went into a livestock pen and took manure and rubbed it all over him so that the dogs would lose his scent. I'm thinking, what a way to go. Stormy Daniels is that manure we keep rubbing on ourselves. It throws us off. Chris Cuomo and those people are throwing you off the scent. And we're saying, wait a minute, hold on, no. We're adults. I'm going to go back to that Schneiderman case. Because let me tell you something. At the tip, at the top, at the very point of the prism, of the biggest story that will bring everything down, for reasons that we will never understand because we're not sexual predators, wholesale, institutional, systemic, systematic, systematized, organized sexual trafficking, abuse of children in levels and areas that I guess they figured we've got nothing to worry about. We've got nothing to worry about. So what they're doing is they're doing everything in their power to keep this suppressed, to divert your attention. And can you remember any time, I read an article, it was February or so, from the right after Harvey Weinstein, 71, remember the number, 71 leaders of industry, CEOs, Hollywood type, entertainment, had to either quit or were fired or facing criminal charges. We're talking about an infection, a metastatic tumor, a cancer with angiogenesis that builds new vascularity, new bloodlines. It's this tumor, this fetid, rank, horrible sexual predation tumor from the Catholic Church to institutions to music to whatever it is. And anywhere you go, where you scratch, where you pull somebody, you run the risk of exposing the lot of it. And that's what we're looking at right now. And what they're doing is they're throwing some sacrificial lamb. They're going to sacrifice Schneiderman. They're going to make him think like, okay, we got him. Nothing to see here. It's like when Al Capone used to turn himself in. Okay, you got me. There's no crime here. I'm leaving. We're not done with this. Let me tell you something. This is huge. And watch what they do to women, the real Me Tooers. They marginalize them. You should see what women will say over the years who were told, we will ruin your career. We will do everything in our power. You don't touch us. And you can call it Illuminati or whatever it is. I don't know, and I'm not here to diagnose historically why people do this. But everything that you've heard about how horrible it is, it's worse. And let me also tell you something. Be very careful. There is a big difference between suspicion and proof. Know when to be the cop and know when to be the jury. Know the difference between probable cause and reasonable doubt. Because a lot of people jump the gun. They jump the gun, they get excited, they've never been involved in any kind of prosecution. They think anytime there's any evidence of something, they go berserk, okay? Be careful. Be scrupulous. Focus. Just because somebody's acting weird, just because somebody's posting something strange, just because somebody may have a design on that you may think is reminiscent of something does not mean they're part of some wholesale pedophile ring. All right, that being said, thank you so very much. Alex Jones, thank you for allowing me to share this moment with you. This is Lionel with you, reminding you to comment as you see fit.